So we resume the debate. The first name on the list is Councillor Stintz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I wish to place my motion. And there's been advanced circulation, so I don't believe I need to read it, but I certainly can. Yeah, but I think I'd like to say, based on the discussion that we've had, I think there's more consensus in this chamber and agreement than there is division. I really do. Because when I listened to the debate today and I hear the comments of members, there's a lot of things that we can agree on together. And one is that modern cities build subways. They also build light rail, and they have bus networks. And I think we all could agree to that. And I think that every single person in this room, especially the mayor, wants to improve transit in the city. It's important for everybody in this city. Everyone in this chamber, everyone who came out today, they want to improve transit. On that we agree. On another area of agreement is that we want to spend scarce resources judiciously. We don't have unlimited dollars. And the province has said to us, with the $8.4 billion, what do you want to do? And they've asked us to make this decision. And I actually offer that we have enough information to make it, and we should. And another very, very important principle that I would offer to this chamber today is that we need transit plans that survive election cycles. Because you cannot build a network and a system in 4 years. You can't. You can't. And we've spent $30 million on EAs and studies, on technical reports, on experts, on consultants, on reports, on consultations. We've spent more than $30 million, and it would be a shame to throw that away. It would be a shame to throw that away. And we need to find a place. And I accept that it hasn't happened yet through Metrolinx and the city, but we need to find a place that we can have transit plans. And it's not a Stintz plan. Please don't, I don't want this to be the Stintz plan. This is the council plan. It's the council plan. And it was voted on 30-3. And the council plan, it looked at a long-term vision for transit in the city. And another thing I think that binds all of us together in this room is that we want to get shovels in the ground. And it's very important that we continue on the Eglinton construction project, and we continue expeditiously. And we have all those EAs done. And there is not one thing that is lost by approving the EAs that we have before us and confirming our commitment to the Eglinton LRT. We get it built on time, on budget, and within the EAs that have already been paid for and approved. So the motions before you do 4 things. They ensure the Eglinton LRT gets built in the most cost-effective manner. Importantly, too, it ensures that Finch gets service. Because right now there's no plan that gets service to Finch. And these motions before you as well, they provide the mayor with an opportunity to further explore his Shepherd subway, because that is his campaign commitment. And I think we need to stand shoulder to shoulder with the mayor to figure out how we can help make that happen, if it's possible. Because he ran on the Shepherd subway, and it's already there. So let's see if we can find a way to complete it. I think we need to take this time to confirm Council's position on transit for the future. We received a letter from the province and a letter from the chair asking Council to make this decision, because it's important to Metrolinx that they hear from us. And we have the opportunity to do that today. And again, I need to stress, I don't want to repeat, but I need to stress, this is not a Stintz plan. It's a council plan. And it's a Metrolinx plan. And it's a regional plan. And it's for our residents. Because fundamentally, the question before this council is, what plan are we going to approve that serves the most residents that we can with the limited resources that we have? And I would offer to you very strongly that the motions before you allow us to do that. The EAs are done. The construction contracts are let. The work is underway. Now is our time. Now is our time to get this work completed. And I don't want to leave this chamber feeling as if we've had a divisive debate, because in fact it's been nothing but. It's actually, I think, been a moment for council to come together and say that yes, we support the mayor, but yes, we also support the plans that have been paid for and approved. And I know the mayor has spoken.
Let's just take a break there and entertain a motion for a 2-minute extension.
Just a quick one.
Recorded vote.
2 minutes?
Yeah, just a quick 2 minutes.
I'm with you on this one.
Thank you.
I might not be on the other one.
That's okay.
I'm not.
Councillor Brognetti, please.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 31 in favour.
Thank you.
Councillor Stintz.
And I did. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did speak to the mayor yesterday. And I said, Mr. Mayor, it's okay to agree to disagree on Eglinton because you have a principle that's important to you. And I respect it and I accept it. So vote against Eglinton. Vote against Eglinton at grade. Be true to your principles. But also hear from me, Mr. Mayor, that we want to support you in Shepherd because, as I say, that's an important campaign commitment for you. And so out of this vote, I hope that we can find a way to move forward in a positive manner. And although we may not be unanimous, to send a strong message to the province that we are good partners and we are committed to transit and that we want to work with them and that we want to continue the work that we've started and that there's still some work that we need to do. Please support my motions and please let us continue the work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. There are much that we can all agree on with respect to the need for new and improved transit, or in fact, a real vision for transit for the City of Toronto. All of us would be very pleased if we had such a plan to ensure that takes place. I note that the motion that's in front of us today, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will not be supporting this motion. There are things here that is certainly one can agree on. There are some concerns that I have with respect to the impact to the residents of Scarborough as it relates specifically to the crosstown. I note that the previous speaker has mentioned that the notion of divisive nature of this council. I think that this, in fact, does send the wrong message in terms of where we are on transit in the city. It would be my hope and my view that, in fact, we would have been moving forward with a much more collective voice, which I don't believe that we're actually doing that today. When I was on the Commission, I had great concerns with respect to the impact of the Eglinton Crosstown line in the Scarborough area. We have designated an area from essentially Victoria Park to Birchmount where our own policy suggests that in terms of planning that this is an area for big box shopping and so on. What we've learned with respect to an at-grade line going across, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm having a hard time hearing myself.
We'll just give things a moment to settle down. It's not too bad, but it's the collective result of a lot of small conversations that are making it difficult. So if we all just keep our comments to ourselves while others are speaking with the microphone. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So let me tell you a little bit about the impact that this decision will have on the community in Scarborough, particularly areas close to my ward. We are suggesting that the crosstown line will prohibit right or northbound turns or southern turns in the areas of Victoria Park, Pharmacy, Warden, Eglinton, and Birchmount and Kennedy. What we have done there, we have a very large shopping area in that area. What we have done, we've suggested that 53-foot trailers can actually do U-turns on Pharmacy Avenue, Birchmount, and Warden. I submit to you that's impossible. When I was on the Commission, that was a great issue for me representing that area. I was told that perhaps a consideration would be to put it underground so that it would prevent these types of challenges for the area in Scarborough. What we're learning today, obviously, that's not in the game plan. The residents of Scarborough have spoken strongly that they're not in support of an LRT system that will be above grade or be basically above ground. We've heard that the people in Scarborough are interested, in fact, in having a system that's underground. Scarborough continues to be given the shaft. 30 years ago, we got it with the SRT. Years later, we're getting it again with respect to not putting the LRT underground, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we've heard much about how the funds are going to be utilized as part of the $8.4 billion. We are not taking into consideration the very MOU that has been signed that suggests, quite frankly, we would only have access to $650 million if, in fact, there were to be some residual amounts. We don't actually know what that is. Now, I note that this particular plan, an omnibus motion here, takes into effect the opportunity to get some folks to vote for this plan. It was interesting that people shook hands yesterday to support the actual referral that the mayor has put forward, but today they have actually changed their particular position. What's different today than yesterday? There was what I considered an agreement on the table, but in fact we had the political, obviously, objectives of some who are not necessarily in the best interest of all that we see playing out on the floor today. So I understand clearly the direction that we're going today, but I can say to you it is a very sad day with respect to the decision that we're about to make here today. There are many business leaders who are very confused with respect to the way this council is going and the direction that we're taking with respect to transit.
10 seconds.
I will ask for an extension, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Well, let's do that now.
Thank you.
There will be a recorded vote on the request for a 2-minute extension.
What was that?
James just asked me if there was a quorum. I said yes, half here and half media.
Well, there's an opportunity to get news.
Councillor Mahevik, please. Councillor Robinson, please.
I'll bear that in mind.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 24 in favour.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thompson.
Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, on a daily basis on Eglinton Avenue, there are between 40 to 50,000 vehicles that are traveling in that area. We have a climate, although winter doesn't seem to have come in a very drastic manner this period. Normally, we are much colder. I heard Councillor de Beermaker mention yesterday about the challenge with respect to a bus stop shelter and being cold and so on. The very people in Scarborough have been complaining about that now for quite some time. The SRT didn't provide even a great degree of shelter for many of them. Many of them now are taking buses and waiting at bus shelters and are having to be cold. And so that particular condition will persist, whether or not we have additional above-grade transit on Eglinton. The conditions that will be imposed on the residents of Scarborough, I believe, will be very stark. I do think, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that I hope this isn't the end And I do hope that as Metrolinx move forward, there will be some consideration to address some of the needs for the folks in Scarborough, because I don't think that we're actually doing that today. I do agree that there is a need for a comprehensive transit strategy for our city, and in fact, that's the plan that I want to be associated with. That's the plan I was hoping that through the Mayor's referral, we would have had an opportunity to demonstrate to the residents of Toronto a tremendous degree of support. I note that the vote may very well be close today, but that's not the message that this Council should be sending. It should be sending a much more collegial, cooperative message to the province and to Metrolinx. Today, we'll fail to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor de Beermaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm supporting the motion put forward by Councillor Stintz. As a Scarborough councillor, I have to ask myself why I was even elected. What is my job here? My job here sometimes very simply is to do the greatest benefit for the greatest number of people in the city. Very simple. Which option provides the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people? And when you look at the evidence overwhelmingly favors surface transit. The plan we had, like the waterfront plan, that had been talked about for decades, that had been put together, that had been funded, that had been approved, that had contracts out, that was the best plan. That was a plan by a previous government that managed to get $8 billion in the bank. The plans put forward by our existing mayor don't exist because he hasn't raised a penny to date for any transit. He's spending somebody else's money. It's great that the previous mayor and the previous council managed to get a hold of $8 billion. A new sheriff walks into town and says, I don't like that plan. What I'm going to do is spend your money. My response is, Mr. Mayor, if you get an additional $8 billion, let's talk. But so far, you've got us a big goose egg. You haven't got anything. And the plan on Shepherd to say to us, well, it used to be $4.5 billion, but we think we can do it with $3.5 billion because somebody took a magic marker and an eraser and rubbed out $1 billion just because the math is easier, just doesn't make sense. Nobody from the private sector has come forward and put one single dollar on the table. So as a councillor who represents south of Highway 401, whose residents would benefit by underground transit, I agree. Everybody on my street, including me, including my partner, including my 3 cats, would say, yes, we want a subway. We want a subway along Eglinton. If you can bring it right up to our house, we'd really appreciate that. We all agree, subways are good. That's not the question. To send out an email or to have a town hall meeting today and say, would you like a subway? I can guarantee you today 100% of the people are going to say, yeah, it's a great idea. Very simplistic analysis. If you actually ask people with limited resources, what's the best? And when people do that resource and they say, with the 2 plans we have today, one plan provides benefits to an additional 200,000 people. 200,000 people are being denied mass transit under the mayor's current proposal. Spend $2 billion digging a hole. It's great if you live on Eglinton because you get to work a little bit faster. I have no dispute with that. It's a little nicer if you live on Eglinton because you can wait in an underground tunnel and you won't get wet in the winter. I agree with that. But the cost of doing that, the cost of spending $2 billion on one section of Eglinton denies anybody living north of the 401 mass public transit. The people in Finch, the people in Morningside Heights, the people in Chartwell, the people in Morningside Heights. You look at Shepherd, they get nothing but buses for the next 30 to 40 years. You look at Finch. Finch West now is as busy as some of our transit lines along Shepherd, already today on buses. You can't put more buses on Finch. There's no room for them. And those people are all being denied transit under the existing plan. I'm supporting a plan that today, if approved, means they get transit immediately. 100,000 people along Finch, 100,000 people along Shepherd, those people benefit. The greatest benefit to the greatest number of people. It's not a complicated equation in my mind. When I read the environmental assessments, I found out that you build these 2 lines up north of 401, 56,000 jobs are along those lines. People can get to work faster if we implement transit along Shepherd and Finch And that's what the motion before us today does. 56,000. Many people talk about investment in this city. I can guarantee you, because as you see the slide presentation going around and around with cities all over the world, you put that surface route on Eglinton, I can guarantee you we'll have hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in private investment and paying taxes. Because at the end of my street at Eglinton and McCowan Road, I've got an abandoned Petro-Canada gas station with nothing on it. I've got a Dairy Queen. I've got a muffler place. It's underutilized land. As soon as they put that transit in, the owner of that strip plaza is going to say, you know what? With my plaza, maybe I'll keep retail at the ground floor and I'll build 6 or 8 stories on top of that because I can make money. Because suddenly Scarborough is desirable. When you add up the price, $3 billion in this plan that Councillor Stintz has put forward today, $3 billion is going to Scarborough. That's a lot of money, and that's helping everybody in Scarborough. When you look at the investment, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair,
Maker, do you need an extension?
I'll ask for an extension. Yes, please.
Recorded vote.
Didn't know you didn't like Dairy Queen.
I love the Dairy Queen. It's got to stay. It'll be a...
Councillor Robinson, please.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please. And Councillor Carroll, when you're seated, please.
Councillor Ford, please.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries 24-2.
Economic development that will take place along Shepherd East and Finch West, it will be miraculous. Investors will come, developers will come, employers will come, and the people who live there will get mass transit that's been denied to them for decades. So I say to my colleagues, especially from Scarborough, if you want to help the greatest number of people receive the greatest amount of benefit, you vote for this plan. And if you're a person, and I've had several say to me, well, Glenn, I drive to work, and I don't care which transit you put in, I'm driving. It's just the nature of my job. I have to drive to work, and Eglinton is crowded. And my response is, that's right. And if we do the plan that's before us today, an additional 40,000 vehicles will be off the road. Let's think about it. An additional 40,000 vehicles off the road if we adopt the plan today. 40,000 vehicles off the road. Your trip along Eglinton is going to be a little faster when this is done because there are going to be tens of thousands of vehicles not on the road but off the road. And maybe you will stay in your car because you have to go to a certain job location, you have to pick up your kids, you've got to go to school after work. Good, stay in your car. But I can guarantee you, when we build these lines, you will be better off and your trip to work will be faster because the cars will come off the road. And as those cars come off the road, we have over 50,000 tons of CO2 emissions and air pollutants coming out of the air that each and every one of us breathe and each and every one of our children breathe. When you look at the facts, Madam Speaker, it is overwhelming. Fact after fact after fact speaks to investing in public transit, investing in light rail transit. Instead of spending $2 billion to dig a hole, spend that same $2 billion to give the people north of the 401 the transit that we all deserve. And I have great faith in my residents. When they're told that, they're going to say, you know what, Glenn, we do all love subways, but we're going to stick.
Councillor Matlow.
There's a bit of a storyline as to how we got here that I think is important to point out. Over a year ago, 14 of us came to council for the first time as new councillors. And I remember distinctly on December 1st, 2010, when we first took office and moved into our new offices here at City Hall, that the mayor went out into the hallway and announced that the current transit plan of the time was dead and we were going to shift gears. And I remember many of us who were newbies at the time, that's what they called us, looked at each other and said, weren't we elected to make decisions about transit planning, urban planning, how to spend billions of dollars of tax dollars that we've been entrusted with? Was that not the very reason that we were elected? Soon after, there was a Memorandum of Understanding signed between the mayor and Metrolinx and the province. If you actually read the Memorandum of Understanding, it makes it very clear that that MOU is non-binding. In fact, it was simply a statement of intent, and it made it very clear that the decision on what path to take would have to come to this council along with the provincial legislature for approval. So here we are, we're at council, and we're asked to make a decision. The preponderance of evidence that I've seen have given me incredible confidence in the path that I've chosen. I believe in the plan that Councillor Stintz has moved. I strongly believe that if we are going to show genuine respect for taxpayers, residents, citizens, that we have to use every transit dollar wisely. We can't make false promises. We need to make evidence-based decisions. We need to put transit underground where it makes sense, where engineering reports, where density, where the real tests demonstrate that we need to go. There are other areas where it doesn't actually make fiscal sense. It doesn't make financial sense nor planning sense to go underground. Those are just the facts. That isn't a left-wing or right-wing perspective. In fact, if anything, those on the left were arguing the fiscally conservative plan 2 years ago. I mean, the reality is that we hear from all of our residents in Etobicoke and Scarborough, North York, Toronto, East York, York, everywhere, that they want the debates to end. They want the bickering to stop. They want rapid transit now. If you go on the Yonge Line, for example, in the morning, you know you often have to wait 3 trains before you can even get on. How many streetcars and buses do we all have to wait for? And then once you're in, you feel like you're a sardine in a can. The congestion is a horrible problem in this city. And everybody's just saying, do something. The province is giving you a certain allocation of funds, and they're asking us to move on it. Now, there are some who say, trust us, we'll figure it out. Maybe the private sector will fund certain things. Maybe we'll have a road toll. I mean, maybe we will, but that debate hasn't finished yet. In fact, this council hasn't even given confidence to that plan yet. I want to see something in front of me that makes sense. I want to see something in front of me that we can actually move on now. And what I do see is the chair of our TTC saying, let's move, let's listen to the residents of Toronto, let's show principle, let's show courage, it's not about populism, it's not about polls, it's not about what you heard when you were at Tim Hortons recently. In fact, we need to listen to people in Starbucks and Timothy's and Second Cup too. We need to move on a plan that we can actually get going on. And I'm supporting a fiscally responsible, realistic plan that will provide better rapid transit to this generation and beyond. And I also hope that no matter what we resolve today, that the majority rules and the minority is heard. That is our governance model. What we decide today is the position that we work on with Metrolinx in the province to see through to fruition. Every member of council, including the mayor, should stick to that. That is what we're here for. But here's the good news. Whatever position you're taking today, the residents of Toronto have won because transit is on the agenda. We're talking about it. We're debating about it. Some of us have even passionately argued for it. But today we're moving forward with the plan, and no one should impede the progress of the resolution of this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Matlow. Councillor Cho.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I have a motion, Deputy Speaker. That the City Council direct the City Manager to forward a letter to the federal and provincial governments requesting a long-term transit funding agreement for future transit infrastructure, operation, and maintenance costs for the City of Toronto. I'm moving this motion because, with the money that we have, the money given from the provincial government, we cannot build a subway. Initially, during the election time, I support the candidate Ralph Ford because he's going for the subway, and I was going for the subway as well. My ward is northeast corner of Scarborough, from south Highway 401 up to Steele, and then Markham Road to the Pickering Town line. Every morning and evening rush hour, when I drive 401, that area, from Brock Road or Meadowvale to Don Valley, it's like a parking lot. And the Board of Trade said that the City of Toronto, we are losing multi-billion dollars each year because of this traffic jam. So by all means, I say, well, we should go for subway, and the mayor candidate say we go for subway. I was assuming the subway will come all the way to Meadowvale, and he had a plan that some money coming from federal, provincial, and then there's money. But in fact, there's no money. So, what's the next one we could do? But before I go on, before I forget, I'd like to commend and give my heartfelt thanks to the TCC Chair, Karen Stintz, Chief General Manager Gary Webster, for their courage and their vision for the City of Toronto. It's very difficult, but they come out and they're providing better alternative. And that is why I'm supporting Karen Stintz's motion. I feel so thankful TC Chair in her motion. She's including that the Scarborough LT conversion to LRT from Kennedy to Station to Shepherd Avenue, and then extension from Shepherd, Melbourne, Scarborough Town Centre to Melbourne Town Centre. I feel so proud to be an elected representative of a Melbourne community. This is a great community. There are lots of people really caring about our community. They feel so proud. But that area, mostly my area, we have so many new Canadians, and many of them, they have to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs. They need public transit. And then unfortunately, once in a while, we have gun violence. This year, everybody knows that through the newspaper and TV and radio that 2 young people got gunned down from Melbourne area, and that there were more sporadic gun shooting. And we have most youth in my role in the city of Toronto, and they need a job. They have to go out and look for a job, but for people living in that area who do not have cars, it takes an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, get to city of Toronto downtown. We need rapid transit. I have no problem bearing the Eglinton line, whether buried, underground, above ground, as long as we have money to provide transit service for other parts of the city of Toronto. But that is not the case. So, actually, I was also anxious to see not only the SRT extension to Melbourne Town Centre, I was hoping that the LRT comes on Shepherd all the way to Meadowvale. But according to the motion that they provide by the Councillor Karen Stintz, the Shepherd line is actually referred to the expert panel, and I will live with that. Because in the long run, I think it's a great idea if we have a subway, but we don't have a subway. Initially, I came to the best country, Canada, 45 years ago, from Seoul, Korea. And
10 seconds.
Can I have extension, please?
An extension has been requested. We'll have a recorded vote.
Councillor Grimes, please.
Councillor Lee and Councillor Matlow, please, and Councillor Perks.
Councillor Robinson, please.
Councillor Stintz, please. Councillor Lee, please.
Councillor Ford, please. And
Councillor
Councillor
Pasternak,
Ainsley.
please. And Councillor Davis when seated. Yep. Yes.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries 25 to 1.
Councillor Cho?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Speaker. You know, those who have been reading the newspaper, everybody knows that Korea, we had the Korean War during 1950 to 53. The whole country became ash from bombing and fighting. But today, they have the best survey system in the world because they build the survey every 2-3 years. Their space, the survey line is like a spider web, and the whole city is surrounded by the subway. But the problem, the good thing is, they have a population of 10 million people, and they live there. And then during the day, the population becomes 15 million, because a lot of people do come to the metropolitan Seoul to work. There's a huge ridership. But the thing is that they constantly get their support from the federal government, which we do not have as much, you know. That is why I'm moving this motion. I hope that all the colleagues will support that. You know, if we had enough money, enough support from federal and provincial government, I don't think we need this special council meeting today debating which way, that way, you know. We do need a survey, no problem, but we don't have the money. So under the circumstances, best option is Councillor Karen Stintz motion, and I'm going to support that. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Cho. Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With Councillor Stintz's agreement, I'm moving an amendment. It's amendment to her very well-researched and superbly written motion. This specific amendment is to insert just a few words to incorporating a gender and racial equity lens after the words advisory panel, and then by adding the following participants to the expert advisory panel: senior representatives from the Toronto Women's City Alliance and senior representatives from Social Planning Toronto. For those who followed me on Twitter and on Facebook will probably know that just by looking at my Twibbon that I'm a fan of light rapid transit. And whatever you want to call it, the plan formerly known as Transit City, or the plan whose name we shall not mention, I'm a fan of LRTs. And I won't recite the technical or financial merits of LRTs or subways. There are many fine colleagues who have already done so, and there'll be about 17 more speakers who will continue to do so. I'm going to speak about women and the urban environment. So women and the cities, and specifically for today, women and public transportation. And I think that when this council reconfirms its approval of plans for light rapid transit, it must also include a gender equity lens. Women and girls will tell you that Toronto's public transportation services harbors a gender bias against them, against us. By simply glancing at the profile composition of our TTC commissioners, it reveals that out of the 9 TTC commissioners, only 2 of them are women. And any attempts to even remove 1 or 2 will go contrary and contradicts the City of Toronto's access and equity policies. The TTC of the future must redesign facilities and infrastructure to accommodate the transportation needs of women and girls. Women use the TTC more frequently, in shorter distances, and in multiple stops. Women are often the primary caregivers of children, as well as their elderly parents. They use public transit with hidden mobility of care. The need to address women's mobility needs means that women do most of the work outside of the home, and we have to accommodate that, and we need to capture that in how we actually document primary riderships as a specific category. So what is that? Care work. What does care work look like? Care work includes taking a child to a soccer game, taking a child to a dance class, running household errands, grocery shopping, doing dry cleaning services, and any other such related tasks. That is care work. Traditional public transportation does not do a good job of documenting care work or offering a category of ridership for those engaged in care work. So this type of dominant ridership, which other cities and other countries have explored as a primary ridership, is not being captured in Toronto's transit plans or Toronto's transit planning. So we need to do that now, and we need to start thinking about that today as we move forward into the future. If women ridership was being properly factored into mass public transportation planning, the TTC would improve its facilities by doing some of the following: widening the aisles or the gates, replacing stairs with ramps, raising platforms to train levels to aid women with strollers and bags, as well as those who need to move around with mobility devices, those in wheelchairs and walkers. If we factored in care work into our transportation planning, we would also extend transit lines into the areas where there's high care sites, such as schools, daycares, community centers, and parks. A good place to start with this type of implementation of change is at the leadership of the transportation planning boards. That has to change. It means that the TTC Commission and the profile and the composition of the board leadership there also needs to change. And it means that the Public Transit Advisory Committee, including the one that's being created to analyze and study the Shepherd subway into the future, means that we need to change the way we do that now. These positions all tend to be held by men. That unbalanced hierarchy is what perpetuates gender disparities in transportation policy and practices.
5 seconds.
Council will lead this city today, not the mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Mammoliti.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm going to move that City Council request Metrolinx to use the funds previously allocated for the Finch West LRT and redirect those funds to the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, the Shepherd subway, and for an upgraded bus route along Finch Avenue. City Council direct the City Manager to immediately enter into discussions with the Toronto Transit Commission, Metrolinx, the Province of Ontario, and the Federal Government on setting the stage for a further subway along Finch Avenue, and the City Council affirm a commitment to a subway along Finch Avenue. I am standing here as a representative along the Finch corridor and putting my money where my mouth is. I'm saying to those that need the money, take it from the LRT that is not wanted along Finch Avenue and put it towards the corridors that are looking for the money. And in return, I would like us to affirm a future subway along Finch Avenue. That's what the voters want up there, that's what the taxpayer wants up there, and that's what I'm here to do today. I'm going to find it very hard to believe that many of you here aren't going to vote for the $1 billion that could go towards the Shepherd or the Eglinton routes and do exactly what many of us want done along those particular projects. I am very upset at how this all unfolded. I've got my own feelings about why it's unfolded the way it has. And I've stated some of those publicly and will continue to do so. I am standing in my place today suggesting that there are other alternatives and compromises, and there are members of council that don't want to hear any of that. And it sounds like a small majority of council don't want anything to do with that. And so I say directly to the provincial government, it's a close vote. But if you look at the polls, they're clear. 80% of Torontonians want subways. And so I'd ask you to consider after this vote not necessarily going with Toronto's vote on this and moving in a direction that this administration has been looking for and the people of the City of Toronto have been looking for. Not just a small few individuals that seem to live in one quadrant of the city and telling the rest of us what we deserve and what we should have, because that's what's happening here. Give me your crumbs. That's really what you're giving us in the suburbs. And the councillors that are moving forward with an LRT along Finch Avenue, no thank you for the crumbs. We deserve what everyone else has, and we deserve what everyone else is going to get. People have subways in their communities. They make a big difference to business. They make a big difference to the residents. It's much better for everyone in a particular pocket. Why is it that for some parts of this city, why is it that in the Jane and Finch corridor, and I speak directly to my colleague, Councillor Perruzza, as well, why is it that the Jane and Finch corridor has to accept crumbs? Why is it that they don't deserve a subway like everyone else? Why is it that we don't push as hard as we would for some of the downtown parts of the city? Why is it? Because of this chamber. Because of the elected officials that seem to represent a small group and want to force things upon everybody else. I'm not happy with that. I hope that many of you can change your mind, and I don't think you are. I think this vote is going a particular way. But at least I can ask you to consider this motion to allow us an opportunity to move forward in the future with something that we really, really would like. This particular project is the Jambroni scheme. It is the Stintz proposal, and there is no difference between the Jambroni and Stintz proposals today. The only difference between Jambroni and the Stintz proposal is that we don't have a leather couch put into this particular proposal.
With that particular insight, Councillor Palacio.
Was it real leather, you think? It's leather. I don't even know what it is. Put a bid on it.
If only he were here. So we'll...
Good motion.
Sorry, my list is playing a little dance on me. Who's next after Palacio? Councillor Fragedakis.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I rise in support of the Stintz motion. Some would like to suggest that the question today is to bury or not to bury. That is not the choice in front of us. We have all heard the Metrolinx plan buries rapid transit where it is necessary. We've also heard that to bury it, the Eglinton line everywhere means we will have nothing for Finch and nothing on Shepherd. Some are making the case that if we don't bury rapid transit in some parts of the city, we are treating those people like second-class citizens. This is nonsense. To give the people in those parts of the city nothing would be to treat them as second-class citizens. To promise them a subway that is not coming for 20, 30 years or never is to treat them like second-class citizens. Today someone asked, what would the people on Finch want, a subway or an above-ground LRT? That too is not the question before us. The choice before us is no improvements on Finch Avenue or a buried underground on a part of the Eglinton LRT. If you care about the people along Finch, give them something real now. If you care about traffic congestion, the Metrolinx 4-line plan, we have heard, will take 40,000 more cars off the road. If you care about this planet, the Metrolinx plan will result in much greater reduction in greenhouse gases. And this part is actually very near and dear to my heart, because I don't believe that we can leave to our children and our grandchildren an insurmountable environmental debt. Let me put this another way. If you have 4 children who all needed to travel to get to school or work, would you buy one of them a Cadillac and give the other 3 a skateboard? No, you wouldn't. So let's be fair to all of Toronto's suburban neighborhoods. Most newlywed couples planning a family don't buy a 4-bedroom house on their wedding day. What they do is rent or buy what they can afford right away and plan for the future. Things evolve over time. Great cities and their transportation networks evolve over time. Yes, invest for the long term, but invest wisely. All parts of Toronto need as much access to rapid transit as problem, not just in one area. Earlier, someone asked, has there been expert third-party evaluation of the Metrolinx four-line plan versus the MOU plan? Yes, it has. In fact, there has been 3. One was done a year ago by the Pembina Institute. 2 others were sent to city councillors in the last few days. One was from Transport Action Ontario. The other was from a number of academics and engineers. It was signed by, amongst others, 3 civil engineering professors at the University of Toronto and other U of T professors. It was also signed by former Mayor David Crombie. More than 100 other engineers and urban planners signed that letter. All 3 of these reports are in agreement that the Metrolinx 4-line plan is the best option. To quote the letter signed by the distinguished academics, quote, the 3 steps that Council needs to take to restore transportation planning in this city to a sensible path are, 1, return the eastern section of the new Eglinton Avenue rapid transit line to an at-grade alignment. 2, restore other key transit projects to fast-tracked implementation. 3, reinvigorate long-range transit planning within the city. For me, it comes down to value for money. For me, it comes down to how quickly we can cut back on the congestion that is threatening this city's prosperity. An issue raised again and again by, amongst others, the Toronto Board of Trade. The Metrolinx plan has been through the environmental assessment process. The Metrolinx plan serves the greatest number of Torontonians. We cannot wait for these mythical subways. We must act on these concrete plans now. We cannot avoid further delay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fagadakis. Councillor Holiday.
Well, Mr. Speaker, when I spoke before about the deferral, I suggested that to make such a major decision when we were so clearly split was wrong. And when you take a look even further at this, 7 of the 10 Scarborough councillors who are directly affected by this are in opposition to what's being proposed, and 5 out of the 6 Etobicoke councillors who also will be directly affected by what we're talking about today are also opposed. So we have the downtown core, I guess, making up the decision for the rest of us. And I think that might be all right, but I think if given time and we had somebody take a look at this and try to provide information for all of us to get us closer to the same page, that we would have a proper decision here on a very important matter that would have a true mandate. I think that by the time the shovels are in the ground and by the time they get around to doing the ends, the Scarborough and the Etobicoke ends, that perhaps we'll have another go at this. Perhaps things will change again. I don't know. But certainly a decision of this magnitude with this small number of people swaying the balance isn't right. I don't think 1 month's delay would have been one bit of trouble at all. I think we could have found some expert people there that would have tried to bring council together and see if we couldn't have come out to a proper majority here to make such a major decision. One of the things I think that's going to happen in the future, and although I'm not totally supportive of it myself, you hear a lot of talk about casinos, and I think probably one day we're going to find that that question is going to be before us. And if it is before us, and if it is acceptable to the residents, I would suggest that the money from such a project would go towards transportation, rapid transit. And I think that there could be hundreds of millions of dollars involved that would allow proper construction on an ongoing basis of certainly a form of rapid transit. I mean, a lot of these proposals that have been put forward are dealing with how we're going to get the money to pay for it, because that seems to be the big problem. If money was no object, of course, we'd have subways, but it is an object. And maybe subways aren't suited for all streets because in some cases the traffic just isn't there. The number of people using the system isn't sufficient to warrant a subway. But in some areas, and I think Eglinton Avenue is one of them, there's a great deal of development that can take place along there. And as we go into the future, I think we'll find that we're going to want all the capacity on that street for public transit and for vehicles that we could ever provide. And Toronto doesn't have the luxury of some other jurisdictions that are developing to make more roads or make wider roads or make smaller roads into bigger roads and major roads. We're locked into pretty well what we have here. And so if we take the capacity of the roads away, we won't get it back. And it's not maybe today the problem would be there, or it might not even be there in 5 years. But heaven knows what's going to happen in 30 years. And I don't think the car is going away. As a matter of fact, I see more people buying more cars every day. Now, the staff did say that even though there are more cars, they're using the roads at different times now, so it still is working out. But 30 years from now, that might not be the case, and we might say, gee whiz, we've got to do something about this problem. We just can't get around Toronto. And if you can't get around Toronto, by the way, you can't do business here. And if you can't do business here, you won't have jobs here. And if you don't have jobs here, the quality of life declines considerably. So this decision is so important that it's just a shame it's been rushed. I mean, Councillor Matlow mentioned that there had to be a decision of this council eventually, and it would have been brought forward eventually. But I don't think that it had to be on 24 hours' notice, and we had to have a special council meeting over it in the spur of the moment to make such an important decision.
Thank you, Councillor Holyday. Councillor McMahon. Oh, God, another no-show. Okay, so we advance to the next. I'll take a chance here. Councillor Perruzza.
Here he is.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I'd like to move the following motion, and it's an amendment to motion 6, and to replace Councillor Mamalides' motion 6 to read as follows: that Toronto City Council support the early implementation of the Finch West LRT and direct the City Manager in consultation with the Chief General Manager of Toronto Transit Commission to report back to City Council on the future feasibility and preconditions required for a subway on Finch West, and the report should include the cost and timing of construction, et cetera, et cetera.
Councillor Perruzza, I'm stopping your time. There's some confusion up here. We're not sure that motion is on record with the clerk's desk here.
Well, the clerk did type it out. Okay, can you ask the next speaker to speak, and I'll clear that up, and I'll come back on the list? Would that be okay?
I'm fine with that, and we have Councillor Mamalides with a point of order.
I believe I heard Councillor Perruzza suggest that it's an amendment to mine. I would ask that the chair rule on that. This is not an amendment to my motion.
Once we've got the motion, we can see where we go with it. So that's all being stood down for the moment, and we'll.
You'll rule on it?
You can bet it.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
We now advance to Councillor Ford in the meantime.
Thank you. Folks, this is about two groups down here. This is about the short-term thinkers and long-term visionaries. Okay, that's what we're dealing with right now. People that want to put a Band-Aid solution on something that what we have to think is long-term. We are building transit in this city for 25 or 30 years. We're building it for 50 to 100 years. I'm going to point out a couple cons and pros on both sides. Let's talk about Eglinton. Eglinton, we can have, as I said earlier, a St. Clair disaster, that cars are backed up, that if you go along Victoria Park in Eglinton, you have the Eglinton Square, you're going to go hit Victoria Park and Warden, we're going to be expropriating businesses along Eglinton, out in Scarborough, to make sure that we have room for streetcars going down the middle of the street. We're going to be reducing the lanes of traffic. About the 40,000 cars that are just all of a sudden going to vanish. Why don't you ask the people on St. Clair if those cars vanished? The only thing that vanished on St. Clair are businesses. You go and door knock to the people on St. Clair, up and down, and ask them if they support the streetcars. Ask them all their neighbors and friends that went bankrupt because the road congestion for years and years and years, what happened on St. Clair. We're going to have the same road congestion on Eglinton. And when people are standing out there in the winter, as Councillor de Beermaker said yesterday, there was a problem with someone standing outside for almost an hour. And when they're freezing their backsides off on Eglinton, out in Scarborough, just remember who moved the motion forward. Remember who put in a two-tier system here in Toronto. And what I'm talking about, a two-tier system, is you have one tier for the downtowners that get the subway, and then you got more than half the city, the 625,000 people, excuse my pun, that are getting railroaded in Scarborough. You have the 300,000 people that are getting railroaded in Etobicoke if they put surface rail down Eglinton. And I might add, as the Deputy Mayor was saying, 5 out of 6 councillors in Etobicoke want subways. Deputy Mayor, we're going to disagree because I believe 6 out of 6 councillors want subways in Etobicoke. Councillor Gloria Lindsay-Luby, before I was a councillor, we almost had a riot up at Richview Collegiate when we had a meeting about putting surface rail down the middle of Eglinton. So I'm sure the people of Eglinton, and by the way, I live in Gloria Lindsay-Luby's ward. Gloria Lindsay-Luby doesn't live in that ward. So I know what the people are thinking in that ward. If you want to talk economic development, you look anywhere in the city where a subway is built, you have a tremendous amount of economic development. And we know the people in Scarborough, they want jobs. They want to get to their work quicker. Right now, if it takes 30 minutes on LRT, surface rail, it's going to take 15 minutes underground. Folks, there's more than what you see here. There's special interest groups at play. And most importantly, there's personal agendas at play with certain people in this council. Again, there was a clear mandate. There was a referendum. And if we actually held a true referendum, every councillor in this room knows that the 10-10 poll that just came out yesterday, 80% of the people want underground transit. They know the CTV poll that came out, 68% of the people want underground transit. Every poll we see is in between 70 and 80%.
10 seconds.
But since there's a culture of entitlement, I'll go for an extension.
An extension has been requested. There will be a recorded vote.
You just vote for yourself, Doug.
Councillor DeGiorgio, please. Thank you very much. Councillor Layton.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 24 in favour.
Councillor Ford.
As I was saying, if there was a referendum, every councillor in this room knows they'd be defeated, overwhelmingly defeated. What we need to do, folks, we need to bring it to the streets. The folks in Scarborough need to speak up. We need to get out there, contact the provincial government, because there's one person that's going to make this decision here. It's not going to be any of us. It's going to be Premier Dalton McGuinty. And I have one message for Premier Dalton McGuinty. Premier, you're going to listen to councillors that don't live in Scarborough, that don't live in Etobicoke, that don't live in North York, deciding future transit for this city, or you're going to listen to the people that elected you. And we know that you were elected by people in Scarborough and Etobicoke and North York. And that will be your decision. If it comes a month or 2 months, I can assure you this fight is not over. We will stand up for the people in the suburbs. They deserve better than a two-tier system and have trolley cars running down the middle of their roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I had the opportunity to speak with a number of seniors in my ward at a drop-in centre last week. Had a great conversation. We talked about what Scarborough was like 20, 30, 50, and in one instance 60 years ago. The one thing that all of these residents told me is that they would live nowhere else. They love Scarborough, and they're going to die in Scarborough because that's one place that they really, truly enjoy. They talked about what Scarborough was like 50, 60 years ago. It was very rural. There was farmland, and it was big, and there was lots of space. But over the years, of course, Scarborough, and if you've been to Scarborough, you know what it was like. It was very industrialized. That was a number of years ago, and Scarborough is changing dramatically once again. The industrial is going, we're getting retail, we're getting residential, and it is starting to grow. But the one thing that all of these seniors did agree on was the fact that we needed underground rapid transit. They wanted subways, and they felt that we needed subways in Scarborough. They also said they know full well that they're not going to be here when these subways are built. They were thinking about the future, about their grandkids, about their grandkids. So they were really looking at the future when we had this conversation. They have lived the fact that there has been change, and they understand from their age and their maturity that we had to look at long-term vision. The proposed buried Eglinton-Scarborough crosstown is what Scarborough residents have been asking for. An underground subway will rapidly connect Scarborough residents with the rest of Toronto. Scarborough encompasses 1/3 of the land mass of this city, and it has the fastest population growth in Toronto at the moment. But it's the residents of Scarborough who have been receiving the short end of the stick when you look at transit planning. And we deserve better. I've been to countless community events where residents have come to me saying that a commitment to build a modern subway system should have been adopted over 20 or 30 years ago, and I couldn't agree more. Now, we tried an above-ground SRT many years ago in Scarborough, and look where that got us. It's part of the motion today to replace it. It was an inefficient, ineffective system that needs to be replaced. We should have buried the damn thing in the first place. Subways will encourage more residents to use public transit, get drivers out of the vehicles, and get them to go where they need to go faster. Not only will a subway system alleviate congestion on our streets, it'll carry more passengers, but it'll also be cost-effective over the long run. Councillors who are against the proposal to bury rapid transit do not represent Scarborough. They are not from Scarborough, and they do not understand the needs of Scarborough residents. Consider what Queen Street, east and west, would have been like if we had put an integrated subway system in instead of the much slower streetcar. Gridlock and travel time would have been cut in half. We should keep in mind that Transit City was never intended to be rapid. Could you imagine if the city decided to bring the subway above ground at Hoggs Hollow in York Mills when we were building the subway, and it would have gone above ground north of the 401? Can tell you right now, North York would not exist as it does today if we had done that. We cannot continue to waffle and adopt short-term solutions for transit. Scarborough needs a system that will be able to expand with the growing needs of its community. The long-term benefits of an underground system far outweigh the the short-term gains of streetcars. We today have a tremendous opportunity to determine what we want this city to be in 10, 20, 50, and 100 years. That is called vision. Scarborough deserves a rapid transit system, and we need to get back into the business of building subways. My Toronto includes Scarborough. My Toronto includes subways and underground rapid transit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. Councillor Prutz is not quite set yet. We'll go to Councillor Layton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We've all put a lot of thought into what we're deciding today. We've read all the reports, and I've personally heard from thousands across my ward and across the city. I'm going to be supporting Councillor Stintz's motion. It's our job to support a plan that provides the best possible service to the most people in a way that's economically and environmentally sustainable. That is the plan before us today, and that's why I'm proud to vote for it. The Metrolinx LRT plan is the best bang for the buck. It delivers the fastest transit to the greatest number of people for the best price. This plan builds transit across Shepherd, almost to the borders of our city. It replaces the Scarborough RT and extends it. It builds transit across Eglinton, and it finally brings rapid transit to communities like Malvern and Thistletown. Across the city, time after time, we debate how we can keep people moving. Yesterday, we agreed to increase fines for those stopping during rush hour because we're facing a crisis, and we need to keep people moving. The only way we can get people moving through this city is by building more and better transit. This plan does just that. Building 52 kilometers of rapid transit now keeps people moving. We also know that per dollar invested, the LRT plan would have the greatest impact on our greenhouse gas emissions and local air quality. This plan is fully funded. The province and the federal government have committed funding for this. Any other proposal that has come before us aren't funded. They will waste our tax dollars on plans that serve less people and will not reach out across the city the way transit must. Other proposals we are hearing about do not serve the people in Scarborough. They also don't serve people packed in buses along Finch, one of the busiest routes in the city. The LRT plan would build 52 kilometers of light rail and bring transit to 500,000 people. Other proposals we are hearing do not. We need to let the facts and not political promises drive what we build. Other proposals that have come before us do not have the funding tied to them. They do not deliver as much service. And they will only ensure that transit is not built for this city. We know that the Metrolinx plan, paid for by the province, is the best plan for our city. Why squander $8.4 billion? This plan delivers the fastest transit to the greatest number of people for the best price. There are now leading cities across the world who've solved this riddle of providing good rapid transit by employing flexible models such as the LRT that is below ground where it needs to be, exactly like our plan. We have a studied and funded plan that we are ready to move on. In fact, transit was built only to be stopped just earlier this year. Well, it's time we start building it again. It's our job to support a plan that provides the best possible service to the most number of people in a way that's economically and environmentally sustainable. That's the plan before us today, and that's why I'm so proud to vote on it. I want to make one other remark, because we've heard several councillors make suggestion and try to bring up this notion that that they should move in on a wedge between neighbours in our city, between the downtown and the rest of Toronto. They're trying to pit neighbour against neighbour in this city, and I don't think that's right, because I think the people of Toronto want us to make a well-balanced plan based on fact, not on political fiction. And it's distasteful. It's disgusting what they're trying to do here by pitting the downtown, saying this is about the downtown having subways and the other places of Toronto not getting them. Well, I tell you, that's not it. Because there are no plans for subways downtown in this model. Ward 19 doesn't get a relief line. It comes quite a bit later. And we've got the densities to support it. It says we're going to put all our money in this little extension of subway at the expense of the folks on Finch. And the councillors in Etobicoke aren't standing up for it. Well, I'm concerned about that. And that's why I think that we've got a well-balanced, well-thought-out plan going forward. And I thank Councillor Stintz for making that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. Councillor Perruzza, are you ready to proceed with your motion?
My mom lives in North York. She still loves me.
They're just typing it up.
Okay, so we'll go to Councillor Kelly at this point.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I'm moving that motion 3A by Councillor Stintz be amended by deleting Part 5. And the reason I'm doing that, Speaker, is because, number one, it envisages the extension of Shepherd LRT to be at its end at the zoo. And secondly, I don't think there's a need to have this report at this time because I think it will conflict with the other recommendation that she's making with respect to an expert panel to analyze transit needs on Shepherd Avenue. 3A appears to prejudge that, and so I'm going to remove 3A from the debate so that any analysis of Shepherd Avenue does not come with a judgment already lodged in the motion. I will not be supporting item 1 as well because the Shepherd Avenue issue will be coming before Executive Committee and the Executive Committee will then have the ability to make its recommendations to Council, and I think at that time Council can exercise its prerogative and choose the direction in which they go at that point. But I don't want anything interfering right now with the regular procedure of Council, which is to bring the Chong report on Shepherd Avenue to the Executive Committee, have its recommendations then advanced to Council, which can then do with it as it sees fit. Speaker, this is the third time that Scarborough's been screwed on rapid transit issues. The first time was in the mid-'70s when a subway was supposed to have been built from the Kennedy Road station to the town centre. What we got instead was an LRT. The second time was in the 80s, 90s, and well into 2000, when we were told that we were going to get a subway along Shepherd Avenue again to the town centre to reinforce its position as the hub of Toronto's East End. And what are we going to end up with? Quite possibly another LRT. We have an opportunity to transform a surface LRT in Scarborough to an underground LRT, and that was the expectations of the residents of Scarborough. And what are we getting? Another LRT. Speaker, Scarborough is 30% of the landmass of the city. It's 25% of its population. And you know what its percentage is of rapid transit? 6.5%. That's deplorable, especially, Speaker, when you realize that Scarborough is going to be growth city for the next 2 or 3 decades. And we're going to leave it without truly rapid transit. I think that's deplorable. I think that's an affront to the residents of Scarborough. And I think the people who back this plan are going to have a very difficult time of gaining not only the understanding but the consent of the residents of Scarborough in order to fulfill the plans that they have concocted for us this afternoon. Speaker, one of the first thoughts that came to mind as we proceeded through this debacle over the last couple of months is that it was handled, and I deeply regret this, it was handled in a very clumsy way. Procedurally, Speaker, if the chair of the TTC had issues with the transit plan as envisaged by the mayor, those second thoughts should have been brought to the Transit Commission because, Speaker, that's where Transit City was born, that's where it was conceived, that's where it was debated, that's where it was voted on, and then forwarded to other orders and agencies of the province. But that wasn't done. The chair should have brought her.
How would you like an extension?
Please.
An extension has been requested. There will be a recorded vote.
Are you holding my time?
Sure am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're very fair.
Councillors Robinson and Crawford, please.
Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Milchin, please. Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Layton, please. Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Stintz, your vote on the extension, please.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 27 in favor.
I thank my colleagues for the courtesy, Speaker. So to wrap up that particular thought, Speaker, the proper procedure to handle this issue should have been Chair, Transit Commission, and Council. It may have ended up with exactly the same series of decisions, but there would have been less blood on the floor and considerably less animosity than I think there is now. And there won't be as much of a battle going forward as you can now see will happen. Speaker, finally, I want to let people know the context of my thoughts on these matters. For many of the people in this forum, they looked out at the crowd and they said, "I'm thinking of you." But, Speaker, I have to say that I wasn't thinking of the crowd that's here today. I was actually imagining in my mind the stands crowded with people 100 years from now who would have the opportunity to look at us today and say, "You did what? You settled for the half-best? You settled for something temporary? You settled for something that in the end cost us the rapid transit that we needed to grow as a city? That you're telling us that we have to pay more for rapid transit, a rapid transit city for the whole city, than we had to have done? That we had to go through this huge extended debate unnecessarily? I think that the people who would have been sitting here looking at us today would have been shaking their heads and would have been embarrassed with what they saw. So little vision do we have in this council. It's the immediate or the short term or what's politically correct, or, as someone else indicated, so much of this is personal and not thoughtful. And in the end, we're not doing our job for the present nor for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Now, Councillor Cho has indicated he may, he's taken his name off the list to question. I'm going to check with Councillor Prutz. Are you ready to proceed? But you know what? Councillor Mamalidi had an interest in what you had to say, so let's give him a chance to show up. And Councillor Prutz. Councillor Prutz.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Speaker. So, Speaker, my motion, it's there on the screen. It's It's easy to read. I won't read it, but it does ask the staff to look at Finch in its entirety, and I hope that people can support that. First of all, Speaker, I'd like to take the opportunity to really sort of thank all of the people over the last year or so who have come out with me, with us, in signing petitions and keeping this issue so very much alive, especially in our neighborhoods, because it's so important. It's so important to do, and an awful lot of folks helped us out with some of that work, and I just want to make sure that they are all recognized for their efforts in having done that. Speaker, I'm just going to focus in on the transit plan and really mostly how it relates to Finch Avenue West. As you know, the original transit line for Finch Avenue West, which included funding from the province, ran from Yonge Street all the way out to Humber College. And the Metrolinx plan actually takes it much further east than Yonge Street. But you know, as the funding got whittled down by the provincial government for the entire project, Finch, to some degree, as well as Eglinton and some of the other lines, got whittled down as well. And now what we're really talking about is a line that runs from Keele Street to Humber College and hopefully eventually back out eastward and westward. Finch Avenue West, Speaker, is the busiest bus route in the city. The 36 bus carries more people than any other route in the city of Toronto. In fact, during the rush hour periods when all those buses are out on the roadway, if you line them up end to end, they're about 800 meters long. That's how many buses we have on Finch Avenue West, and many of them during the peak hours they're just full, completely full and congested. And what happens to these buses? Well, during the peak hours, they bunch up because they're meandering in traffic, and they often, you know, you're standing at a bus stop and you'll get 2, 3, 4 buses that come by in a row, and then you'll be standing there for long periods of time because it's a system that doesn't really work very well. And when the TTC looked at this, they looked at putting, you know, a transit system on its own dedicated right-of-way that served the transit users on Finch, but also to some degree made it better for other users of the road as well, because it created a widening of Finch, it eliminated a lot of left turns, and so on and so forth, provided a much better streetscape, all the things that are desirable to bring into a neighborhood. So while we got improved transit, we also got an improved roadway. And quite frankly, this is a stretch of Finch, when you look at Keele to Humber College, that runs through some of the poorest and neediest neighborhoods in the city with high transit use. And the service is really poor. It doesn't matter. You can continue to add buses on Finch Avenue. They'll continue to get stuck in traffic, and they won't provide better service for folks. It just doesn't happen. They added buses to Finch, and it hasn't made it better, Councillor Mamalidi. In fact, it's very much the status quo in many regards. So that's why it's so important for us to get this project back on track. Why is it so important for us to make this decision today? I just want to go back to some of the history related to some of these projects, and I think that people often lose track of time as it relates to major capital initiatives like this. The Spadina subway extension, which is currently under construction, basically took, I think from the day it got announced in 1986 to when it's going to open in 2015, some 27 years. 27 years. That's like a lifetime. 27 years between when it was first announced to when we're actually going to realize a a subway extension, the Spadina subway extension, when everybody was saying some years back, Speaker, I'd like an extension, please.
An extension has been requested. There will be a recorded vote.
I'm trying to tone it down a bit.
I disagree with everything he said.
Councillor Mamalidi, please. Councillor Crawford, please, and Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Cho, thank you.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries 23-1.
So, Speaker, just picking up on that point, 27 years. I, as I'm sure everyone else here on this council, would love to have a subway under every major road in the City of Toronto. That's a fact. I don't think there's anybody here who wouldn't love to have a subway under every single city, in every road in the City of Toronto. I would love to have a subway under Finch Avenue West, running the entire length of Finch Avenue West. But you know what? Every time we get stuck in these debates, I remember 1994, the then provincial government announced 4 significant subway lines. You know, costed it out, funded, that said, like, we're going to go. It was Eglinton. It was Spadina. It was Shepherd. And I forget what the other one was. But it's probably forgettable because everybody else forgot them too. You know, and that work started. Then all of a sudden what you have is you have a change in government. So the government changed. Mike Harris came to power, killed everything, buried $80 million on Eglinton Avenue, burned it. But he had no problem burning $80 million on Eglinton Avenue. Right? He didn't have money, but he burned $80 million. He basically dug a hole, filled in the hole, and in there he dropped $80 million, right? Which rotted. So that's what happens. That was 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. So you have this great big significant debate. You know, this one government comes along and says, we're going to fund all these things, like, you know, Councillor Mamalidi and Councillor Crisanti and everybody else is saying, we're going to fund all this stuff. Oh yeah, we'd love to have a subway. Someone comes along and says, yeah, let's build some subway. Someone else comes along and basically burns the cash, fills in the hole and says, that's it, it's over. So, Speaker, we are here. This is a good plan. Let's move forward. Let's serve the citizens of the City of Toronto.
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Lee. Oh, sorry, we got a question from Councillor Mamalidi. So hang on just a sec. Oh gosh.
Anthony.
Oh, Councillor Mamalidi to question.
We have had the privilege of representing pretty much the same area for a number of years. Do you really think that by supporting an LRT, you're doing what the communities really want us to do? Do you really think that that's what they want?
Councillor Mamalidi, I remind you that questions are
for clarification. If the question of me is, do I believe that an LRT line on Finch Avenue will serve the commuters and will serve the transit users on Finch Avenue much, much better than the service they currently have with the 36 bus?
Right.
Absolutely. I would love to have a subway. Just don't have the magic beans to make it happen.
Then I hope you support my particular motion.
Show me your magic beans to make it happen.
Data,
and then I'll support your motion.
Have you seen the TTC data on enhanced bus service? This is not funny, Mr. Perruzza.
No. Show me your magic beans. How are you going to make it happen? And I'll support you.
I'm looking forward to hearing what our constituents have to say about what you're trying to do in kiboshing what they would like in the way of a subway. This is statistics that come directly from the TTC, and it very clearly spells out, and I can give this to you, Councillor, that a bus actually along Finch Avenue is faster than an LRT. That in fact, with 23 minutes, you can get through are 23 kilometers an hour you can get through Finch Avenue as opposed to an LRT at 22. Do you not believe that our constituents, the ones that we share, would rather you and I push for a subway than an LRT?
Oh, absolutely. I don't disagree with that statement at all. And that's why my motion asked the Commission, asked the General Manager of the TTC and the City Manager to look at what the feasibility is of doing a subway on Finch and what it would mean and how it would serve people and what the costs of those are. So because for us to just simply talk about it and say it in the way that you're saying it, thinking that you got some magic beans in your pocket to make a subway happen tomorrow, that's just not on. 25 years, 27 years to get the Spadina subway extension. 27. You think people on Finch Avenue can wait another 27 years?
We're losing our hospital in the Jane and Finch area, and along with that are all the jobs that go along with the health-related components to the hospital, Councillor. With an LRT and with the construction of an LRT, do you think you're doing the business community any favor by suggesting that they rip up the roads the way they want to, like they did St. Clair, and ruin their businesses?
Well, you know what? Finch Avenue has no strip retail on Finch. There is no parking on Finch Avenue anywhere from Yonge Street all the way to Humber College. It's wide and it's got lots of boulevard. And you know what? The businesses on Finch, they're malls. What you do is you just pull off the road into the parking in the malls. Sure. I don't see where the impact would be on anyone while they do. There will be some discomfort, there's no question. But in terms of the kinds of disruptions that occurred on St. Clair, absolutely not. Like where? There's no parking on Finch. There's no street parking.
Okay, Councillor Perwitza,
There's no strip retail.
Councillor Perwitza, stop talking to yourself and listen to the question.
The local BIA.
Well, he's talking about businesses.
Okay.
No, who's running the meeting?
Last question, Councillor Mamalidi. Last
or
question.
The Speaker?
Last question. Okay. Councillor Lee to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise and I have a motion. And that motion is that motion 3B by Councillor Stintz be amended by adding the following participant to the expert advisory panel. A representative from the Shepherd East Village BIA. And the reason why I'm asking for that is that the Shepherd East Village BIA, when they first heard that there was rapid transit coming to the area, they were very involved and got great cooperation from TTC and has developed a lot of knowledge. And it's local representation that understands the area. Because the businesses in the area will be most heavily impacted by any kind of construction, whether it be a subway or an LRT. Okay. So I urge you to support that. And I'm supporting both motions by Councillor Stintz and some of the others as well. And basically earlier I said that by going forward with the Eglinton LRT, I am not reallocating the money, $650 million that was allocated for transit improvements along Shepherd, and give it away to somebody else. I'm preserving that funding for improvements of public transit along Shepherd. And when you add in the $333 million sitting right now, there's federal funding allocated to Shepherd. Although the wording of that was to an LRT, I'm very sure that our mayor, being good friends with his federal counterparts, would be able to redirect that $333 million. So that gives us approximately $1 billion for rapid transit along Shepherd. And motion 3B gives us 30 days to look at all the options. Now, don't forget that Dr. Gordon Chong released his report. Last week, the press, the media got it. Yesterday, it was dropped on the councillor's desk. So we haven't had time to look at it, to analyze it and see what kind of funding model is possible. So we are going to be spending the next 30 days looking at it to come up with options. And that's what I'm asking support for. Now, since this debate started, in terms of my residents emailing me, the lobby for the subways was very strong. They went out and got as many people to email me as possible. The LRT people just were left alone. But I still got a response rate of 50% people of my residents supporting LRT, and the other 50% saying that you lose my vote if you vote for the LRT. Okay? Next election, I'm going to stand here and say that, well, you know what? I am making decisions not based on polls, not based on whether I'll lose votes in the next election or not. I got to stand here and stand strong and make sure that I make the best decision for all of Toronto. All of Toronto, including Ward 41. During election, Mayor Ford ran on the platform of subways. I did not. And I will tell you that it was published, well published in the Scarborough Mirror, that I supported the LRT. And yet I still won. There were two opponents of mine that ran on the platform of putting subways, and I still won. Because people believe that I'm making the best possible decision for them. And that's what I will continue to do. Make the right decision, regardless of the next election. A lot of people, including Councillor Ford, is fighting. He says, the people of Scarborough remember that. Yes, please remember that I'm the one that made the decision to bring forward and make the best possible transit decision on behalf of the residents of Ward 41 and the residents of Toronto, as well as the GTA, because public transit is not just in Toronto. It serves the GTA area. People that need to come down from the 905 area to work.
Councillor
downtown.
Lee, do you need an extension?
Yes, please.
Recorded vote.
Councillor Lee, your vote, please. Councillor Lee, your vote.
Councillor Mihevik, please.
Councillor Davis, may we have your vote, please?
Councillor Mamalidi, please. Councillor Vaughan, please.
Oh, yes.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries 23-1.
Thank you. Now, I just had a resident in my office over the lunchtime, and I asked him bluntly, I says, what do you think? He says, subways should have built 20 years ago, but there's no point crying over spilled milk, because every time the government changes, we seem to divert from what we were doing before. Whether it's at the municipal level, provincial level. Because the federal just provides funding. They don't have a national transit strategy. So I'll leave them out of that. They just provide the money. And it's unfortunate. But now it's time to make those decisions. And it's tough decisions. No easy ones. As Councillor Stintz was saying, if we do not make those decisions, then we will just be teetering around and burning up money. 1 million, 2 million a month. Still undecided. So now this 30-day grace period would allow us, using Dr. Gordon Chong's report, to finally decide what happens on Shepherd and preserving the funding that was originally allocated for that, $1 billion. All right? So I'm asking you for your support. Thank you very much.
Councillor Milchin to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have an amendment to Councillor Stintz's 3B, and that is to add the underlined words and report on other potential funding sources that could augment the funds. Purpose of that motion is simply because we do have the Chong report that has come forward. It identifies a number of revenue tools which could be utilized for Shepherd and other transit lines. It will make its way to Executive Committee and the next Council meeting in one form or another. So to have the expert panel turn its mind to it to some extent would be useful, especially since Representative Metrolinx will also be on there, and this very much mirrors the work Metrolinx is doing. Madam Speaker, I just wanted to start off by not speaking about transit per se, but speaking about a couple of people. Councillor Stintz has been doing her job as chair of the TTC. Not everybody might agree with her. I don't necessarily agree with everything with her on what she's been working on lately, but she's been doing it in an honest and responsible manner, and she deserves everybody's respect. She has mine. And I also wanted to say about TTC staff and the Chief General Manager in particular. You know, we tend to shoot the messenger, shoot the manager. We don't necessarily like the advice we always get. That doesn't mean that they're not professional and they're not doing their best. And we can choose to disregard their advice sometimes, and we do. But they're doing their jobs, and they're doing it professionally and well, and they do deserve our respect. And Mr. Webster has my respect. So I wanted to get that out of the way. This is an issue that hasn't faced this council ever before, I don't think. What to do with all the riches that we have now. We've usually argued about what to do if we had money, and we float all kinds of balloons up to the province and to Ottawa, and then wring our hands and yell and scream when they give us nothing or not give us enough. Well, we haven't gotten enough, certainly, but we have gotten a substantial transit plan that is under construction today, because Eglinton has begun. So, in my heart of hearts, do I believe that Eglinton Underground would be a superior transit line? Of course. It would be faster. It would be more transformative, and we want transformative transit in the city. Because to simply say that we have taking people off a bus and putting them on something that maybe is a little bit more comfortable or a little bit nicer, that's great for the people who already ride it, but it's not transformative. And if we're going to make a difference on gridlock, on sustainability, we need transformative transit projects. LRT is transformative, perhaps just not transformative enough. We also know that the Eglinton line that we are going to get, regardless of what Council does today, there will be more underground, more of that line underground than was the original proposal. I am certain of that. And that's a good thing. And it's based on engineering advice. What I've also heard today, and I hope that members of Council and the public were listening, that the funds that would be freed up should Eglinton not go fully underground are not likely enough to pay for both Shepherd and Finch. Are not likely enough. We've also heard the priority from the TTC would be build Shepherd first, not Finch. So one end of the city would get substantially more transit than another one, because there's been a lot of discussion about who wins and who loses. So I'm very hopeful that we are going to be able, because of that, to move actually on finding a solution to Shepherd. And I'll ask for an extension, Madam Speaker.
Okay. A recorded vote.
stick to my principles.
You're walking. Okay. You gave the mayor an extension. Yeah, that's the only person you gave an extension to. That's respect.
Councillor Palacio, please.
There's different ways of showing support.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 25 in favor.
I'll try and speak very quickly then. If we had had an Eglinton subway 15, 16 years ago, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. Because that's the subway that should have been built then, not Shepherd. But we now have 1/3 of a subway on Shepherd. It's ludicrous not to try to complete it to the west, to the east. So I'm also hopeful that whatever happens today, that there is some consensus around council that we have to look for a solution to try and complete the Shepherd subway. And that's really what I think, what I really want to speak to, because this is the most important thing, far more important than trying to decide how we're going to spend money we already have. This council will turn its mind, for the first time ever, to a municipality looking for tools to build major public transit. It's no more cap in hand to Ottawa, Queen's Park. You give it to us because we can't pay for it with property taxes. This mayor, I'll be blunt, somewhat surprisingly, this mayor has brought forward a report that says we have to look at raising money in other ways in this city to pay for public transit. That is a massive paradigm shift in the thinking of this council, and it should be embraced. And whether it could be anything, TIFs, parking levies, any number of tools. But it also has to be directed to a real purpose, not just to keep the lights on at City Hall, like what the previous term of council did when they raised new revenues, but about taking that money and investing it in the real future of this city. And that is, I think, the most important debate this council is going to have. And we're going to hopefully have it very soon. And that's one that should really give our residents hope that this council...
Time's up. Councillor McMahon to speak.
Thank you. Transit City was not a perfect plan. Transportation City is not either. But what's happened is this critical struggle to get the city moving has become polarized and paralyzed. Toronto has a worse commute than LA. 1,800 Torontonians die prematurely every year due to poor air quality. We need to get people out of their cars. And the way to do that is by building a better transit system. We have dilly-dallied long enough. We have played the transit name game long enough. It's time to make a decision. It's time to get the shovels in the ground. I take the transit every day. I know what it's like. I'm lucky because I have a fairly easy commute, but it's getting more and more crowded and more delayed. I rammed in with backpacks in my face, elbows in my back, dreaming about a downtown relief line. So I'm thrilled that in Councillor Stintz's motion, it's there for discussion. The single most important thing we can do for Torontonians now and for future generations of Torontonians is to build better transit. Let's start doing that today. That's it. Sure.
Councillor Palacio. Oh, just a moment, sorry. Reset your time. Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not support the recommendations of Councillor Stintz. I will do support some of the recommendations of other members of Council. We did try to get a compromise going. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, it didn't happen. And, well, that's what happened. Now, I do hope that the TTC have something to learn from their monumental mistakes that were considered a total disaster during the exclusive right-of-way on St. Clair, and that's a legacy of bad management, oversight, overspending, and political interference. As you can see in the slides there, this was taken yesterday. You can see the level of traffic there is going east from that's by the underpass. The level of congestion that you have there, the environmental effects that you can see that's affecting local communities.
Okay, just a sec. Councillor Palacio, enough? Okay, but if you want to ask quietly. Don't disrupt the council. And Councillor Mihevik as well. Okay, Councillor Palacio.
Thank you. I have 10 seconds then, Madam Speaker. The tremendous environmental effect that's causing to local communities there,
okay.
The traffic infiltration.
Okay, hold on, Councillor Palacio. Let's just have a little quiet time for a minute. Okay. Continue. Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This St. Clair project was supposed to be the urban prototype transit project ever conceived, the best one ever, free of flaws, being a cost-effective and built on time. As you can see now, as I was mentioning, the level of congestion, the tremendous environmental impacts that the local community is suffering, the traffic infiltration that's happening there, the tremendous economic losses to the local community as commuters every day. It's a nightmare. If you are trying to move from point one to point B, and within one block, it takes almost 25 minutes to half an hour. Just take a look at it. In terms of cost, it was a project over cost. We spent over 100%. Hundreds of businesses have closed down. Hundreds of businesses are still struggling to survive because of what's happening there. What you see there is the reality that's happening every day, my dear friends. This is a real nightmare to the tens of thousands of local residents in the whole community. This is the reality of what's happening there. Now, is the Chief General Manager of TTC, when I ask my questions to him, now we can say with all certainty that we know that no one was in charge of the project. The TTC created a real nightmare that perhaps it's a real shame. Councillor Mihevik, at whatever point, he did mention that, you know what, there are great things along St. Clair, and that's great. But you know what? Most of the BIAs, they have put hundreds of thousands of dollars in beautification programs to make sure all the landscaping and the beautiful things that are happening on St. Clair and will continue to work is the product of a real partnership in terms of cost of capital cost sharing programs between the local BIAs and the Toronto Economic Development. And that's the reality, my friends. That's what you have there. In the absence of that, you'll have just one thing in the middle of the road. That's the exclusive right-of-way. One wonders why taxpayers are so cynical and disenchanted. the silent majority has spoken to this. I did campaign openly, and I've been elected and re-elected and elected again on an issue that has got to the heart of that community. And I'm extremely proud of the position that I have taken, because the devil is in the small detail. And when I asked those very questions, we never got them. And that's what concerns me at this very moment. In this project, it is going to be a reflection of what's on St. Clair. Residents of Scarborough, my friends, they deserve much better. And whatever happens in this council today, the message for them, it's going to be,
Councillor
we are
Palazzo,
listening.
do you
Yes,
need an
please.
extension?
Yes, please.
Recorded vote.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Palazzo.
I voted for myself now. Thank you.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries unanimously, 27 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The message to the residents in Scarborough is, we're listening to what you are saying, but you know what? We're not going to act on it. There was a number of petitions presented today at the beginning of council. You may recall during the exclusive right-of-way debate, I presented the largest ever petition in this council chamber, with over 17,000 signatures from local residents objecting to it. They had another alternative that was very palatable to everyone, but no one wanted to listen to that. That was sad. That was very undemocratic. Imagine those that years back that they had a vision and the leadership and the intestinal fortitude to come up with a great vision to create the subways that we have now, that we are extremely proud of. And I can only guess, maybe 40 or 50 or 100 years from now, that the decision that we are making today is going to be the legacy. And I hope it's not going to be a legacy of shame. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak. Okay, one moment, just a sec. Okay.
I have two motions. I would ask the clerk's office to put them on the screen. One are friendly amendments on just the wording of motion 3B, Councillor Stintz. I found that the wording of the advisory panel was too restricted, and with that wording, it was going to in fact tell us what was best for us. Where in fact we want their advice rather than direction in a concrete way. I also bring forward a motion that finally addresses some of the opportunities that we must look at in order to fund our transit vision. I mean, if you take a look at our current subway map, and I ride the subway every day, I ride the surface routes, I ride some of the streetcars, and I can tell you this subway system, as it currently looks, is totally inadequate for a city of 2.6 million, a GTA of 4.6 million. We're growing at over 50,000 a year. I also want to point out that LRT on Eglinton East, there is absolutely nothing in the motions that say that has to be built at grade. In fact, if you do research on LRT in major Western cities, such as in the United States or Western Europe, most of the LRT is actually elevated above street level. So depending on the vision that you have and the budget that you have, LRT need not necessarily be at grade. And I don't see any wording in there that forces us to build at grade. So the fact, when I hear these arguments of it taking up lanes, that is going to ruin the commercial sector, I'm really not quite sure where it's coming from. If they're thinking of St. Clair, well, St. Clair was not LRT. St. Clair was a grievous mistake that was just a glorified streetcar track. And if they wanted to do some kind of a showcase for at-grade LRT, they should have gone Finch West in the first place. But coming back to some of the provisions of my motion A, I think we have to start looking at how we can tap and how we can look at the funds that are available to us. Sure, we need a federal partner. Sure, we need a provincial partner. But we have to look at what's before us. Now, one of the items here is looking at the disposition of city assets controlled by the TTC. These are non-performing real estate assets worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and we need to know the feasibility of disposing of them so we can fund our transit projects. We also have to look at the TTC annual capital budget. I ride the TTC every day, and I see capital projects that are nice to haves, but I really wonder whether that's our number one priority. We have to look at the capital budget, which is stretching over $800 million a year, and we have to have firm provisions that we allocate somewhere in the vicinity of 20% of it into laying new track. We also have to look at our annual surplus and put in place the use of those funds on what is our biggest urban priority. What is the crisis that we face? And the crisis is a transportation crisis. We also have to have almost like a city charter where we're digging a kilometer of underground or above grade LRT every year. Many other municipalities have that in their charter, and it cannot be veered from. We also have to work with our other civic leaders in the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. We're one of the only Western industrialized countries without a national transportation strategy. And what we also want to do is we want to go back to the federal government one more time and look for a funding package for Shepherd. I realize my time is limited. I ask you to look at the details of this motion. They are guiding principles and not formal policies set by Council, and of course we want reports back. If we look at what's happened over the last 25 years, we've opened six subway stations. And we clearly can agree that our transit strategy has to be revitalized by this Council.
10 seconds.
And that strategy must combine a wide range of different visions looking forward. And my motions and the motions before you, in support of Councillor Stintz, tries to encapsulate that vision.
Thank you, Councillor Pasternak. Councillor Nunziata is up next.
I would like to amend Councillor Mamlidi's motion by adding the words the Eglinton Crosstown. Is there an interruption here? Can you put my time on hold?
My mic.
Why did you have to interrupt the speech for that? I get it.
Sorry for the interruption, Councillor Nunziata. Carry on.
Okay, so I'm amending Councillor Mamalidi's motion by adding the words underground to Jane after the words Eglinton Crosstown LRT. Members, I spoke this morning when I spoke in support of the referral, and I explained the reasons. And it's obvious that members of Council do not understand, and that do not understand the Transit City plan, because if they did, then they would in fact know exactly what Councillor DeGiorgio and I are experiencing in York Southwestern. With the original transit plan, and I got to mention as well, the same councillors that supported Transit City supported the St. Clair right-of-way, which everybody is agreeing that was a write-off and a waste of money, are the same councillors that are pushing for Transit City. in the Transit City, when it was proposed, and we all objected to it, and I got to tell you, it never came to council for a vote. Never came to this council for a vote. The Transit City plan, no, it did not, Councillor Mihevik, because if you remember, Councillor Mihevik,
7 votes.
Councillor Mihevik, stop interrupting. If you remember that we made a deputation, my community, to the commission, and along with the MPP, when the proposal, the commission voted on the proposal, and we were opposed to it. Now, the Transit City plan, as presented, and now that we are proving it again, is that it's underground to Keele, to Black Creek, and above ground to Jane Street, which means that in my community, that all the homes along Eglinton and Western Road and businesses are being expropriated. That is the Transit City plan, and that's exactly what we were against. We made a deputation to the commission with hundreds of names on a petition and asked, please, because the original proposal from TTC was that there were different options, and one of the options was underground, but too bad, too sad we don't have the money, because we want to build Transit City. To build Transit City, parts of the Eglinton line have to sacrifice. So we were sacrificed. Now, in the last municipal election, we were promised that it's going to be underground. You can call it whatever you want, subway, train, whatever. We want it underground. Why should my community be destroyed because they have to expand Eglinton Avenue for the above ground and expropriate all the properties? So here again, the former City of York residents in York lost our subway in 1994, and we were told then, oh, it's because, you know, Shepherd, they have a lot of the MPPs, it's a very rich area, City of York is a very poor area, so you lose the subway. So we took that, and we had to, we didn't have a choice. Councillor Lee mentioned, well, you know, the subway was cancelled 15 years ago, why go back? Why not build it right? Build it right now. Don't make the same mistakes that you did on St. Clair Avenue. Councillor McMahon talks about how wonderful it is for her to walk out and get the subway and get transit. We don't have transit. You're lucky you have the subway. You're lucky you have transit. I have nothing. Think of the city. Think of the residents in the whole city, not of yourself only. And the councillors that are supporting this, they're downtown. They have a subway. They have proper transit. We do not have proper transit. So, since we are not listening to the residents of Scarborough, we just completely ignored them. Please listen to this little piece along Eglinton Avenue where we were promised that it would be underground and extend that underground, and that's why I'm moving that amendment, because at the spring of this year, there's an EA going out that TTC has asked for to go underground to Jane Street, and I'm asking that it be extended and that we proceed with that EA and that we go underground. As I mentioned as well, Councillor DeGiorgio and I'll ask for an extension, Mr. Speaker.
How long would you like? An extension has been requested. There will be a recorded vote. Oh, let's deal with your point of privilege after we've done with the vote.
Councillor Pasternak, please.
Councillor Nunziata, please.
Councillor McMahon, your vote, please. Thank you.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries unanimously, 24 in favor.
Okay, we'll just hang fire for the moment. We have Councillor McMahon on a point of privilege.
Thank you. Councillor Nunziata, I never said I take the subway. I said I take transit. I actually do take the subway some days. I take the bus some days, and I take the streetcar some days. Other days I ride my bike. But I do care about the rest of the city, which is why I want transit built and built today. Thank you.
Thank you for that helpful contribution to today's proceedings. Councillor Nunziata, your time has been extended.
Okay. You're fortunate you have a choice, Councillor McMahon. We don't. Councillor, the Transit City, the original plan, and I know there's some councillors in here that are disagreeing, but you know, you can disagree what you want. But I was there with the community, I was there with TTC, and if they say that that didn't happen, I will really be angry. When we had the public consultations in my ward and Councillor DeGiorgio's ward about the Transit City, Councillor Mihevc, listen to this, that the proposal and one of the models at the open house was underground. So everybody in our ward assumed it was going to be underground. It wasn't until it went to the commission that they changed it and made it above ground. So that's what happened. And I'm just speaking to ask members of council to please support the amendment and Councillor Mamalidi's motion and my amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Now we have Councillor Mihevc to question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, just because you've said it so many times, I have a sheet here that says, and it has all the votes on Transit City, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 votes. You were present for all of the votes, and I'll just go through a few of them, and I'm wondering whether you would want to adjust your statement that we never voted on Transit City.
Councillor Mihevc.
If I could finish that.
Councillor Mihevc.
If I could finish
asking
the question.
No, actually, I'm shutting down both of your mics. Councillor Mihevc, you might want to direct your questions to matters relating to clarification of the motion. Councillor Mihevc.
Her motion indicates that through her motion and through her speech related to the motion, she indicated that she never voted on Transit City. I have something here that says that she voted
that my
for
motion
it 7
doesn't
times.
say that. My
And
motion.
I'm wondering whether you want to correct that.
Councillor Mihevc, when I spoke, and if you will listen when I speak,
I do.
that when we
That's
had the
why
public,
I'm asking the question.
no, I'm answering your question. When we had the public consultation on Transit City, the proposal in the open house that we had in York Southwestern, and Councillor DeGiorgio will confirm that, is that the proposal, what TTC brought forward for Transit City, was underground.
No.
But then they changed it when it went to the commission.
Well, what I have here.
So
I have
Councillor
here
DeGiorgio will confirm that. He's
2009,
nodding his head.
2009, the approval of the EA for Eglinton LRT came to City Council. It was CC 42.7, and on that particular day, yourself, Councillor DeGiorgio, Councillor Palacio, all voted in support of the Eglinton.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
and you're absolutely correct, Councillor Mihevc. We did because we were. No, it didn't come to council. Not the underground from Jane Street, not to Jane Street. The part from that Black Creek to Jane Street did not come to council.
Thank you, Councillor Mihevc. Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Thank you, Councillor Mamalidi. Thank you all so very much. Now we have Councillor Pasternak. Councillor Pasternak on another matter that might be a little more helpful to all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is a figure I'd like to adjust in Motion A, Part 3, a figure that reads $880 million, should in fact read $650 million because there is a cap on what funds can be transferred over from the current agreement to Shepherd. The cap is $650, and that motion has to be changed.
Thank you, Councillor Pasternak. And seeing no objection to that suggestion, I think we'll just proceed on that basis. The next speaker in line is otherwise occupied at the moment, so we will advance to Councillor DeGiorgio.
back. We may want to make that change and then just basically.
Thank you, Madam Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me first begin by indicating that I will be supporting, first of all, Councillor Nunziata's amendment to Councillor Mamalides' motion, as well as Councillor Kelly's motion, which deletes Part 5 of Councillor Stintz's motion. I want to echo, first of all, Councillor Milchin's comments with respect to Councillor Stintz and the excellent work that I think she has done with the TTC. And this in no way, my position in no way reflects on the work that she has done. However, I do have some personal opinions, and especially the way it impacts my ward, as enunciated partially by Councillor Nunziata. You know, in my view, I remember the last time we had to act in haste at this particular council was in 2002, and we adopted an official plan that the sky was going to fall if we didn't adopt it on a particular day. It was just, it had to be done. And it was an ill-conceived plan. It was rushed through, and the reason why it was an ill-conceived plan was because when we tried to adopt a comprehensive zoning bylaw that was in compliance with the official plan, which basically was based on one-size-fits-all and a transit-based kind of official plan, we couldn't come up with a comprehensive zoning bylaw. We had to repeal it, and now we're in the process of trying to come up with a comprehensive bylaw that is in conformity with an official plan. Now, I say part of that official plan was transit-based. However, it was LRT kind of transit, and rapid transit is in progress. Let's make no mistake about it. And one of the reasons is that we're in agreement with the below-grade transit that is to be built along Eglinton from Black Creek to Laird. That's going ahead. The plans of the construction's already started. Supposed to be completed by 2020. What happens beyond that, I suspect, will be revisited a number of times by 2020.
What was the number?
I do have some problems with something that says we've got to serve the maximum number of people with the limited funds that we have. When you adopt that kind of an approach, you basically are saying, let's do the best that we can with the money that we have, which basically says, let's take the cheapest approach. And that leads to substandard kind of transit. And so it's only a matter of time before we come to recognize that the decisions that we make that are based on substandard sort of two-tier transit will have to be revisited. We'll run into some stumbling blocks, just the same way we ran into a stumbling block with a comprehensive zoning bylaw. Councillor Layton talked about, he commented on, I think, I'm not sure which councillor talked about this disparity between the suburbs, the kind of transit that they get, and the kind of transit they get in the city. City gets the subways, where in the transit systems in the suburb tend to be either above grade LRTs or, if you're lucky, below grade LRTs. The reality is that there's an interdependence there in the transit system. There's an interdependence. The moment you try to improve transit for the outskirts, that is to say in the suburbs, and you bring more people to your central subway lines, that puts pressure on the subway line down south, downtown. And so what happens is you increase the cost, you put in Finch, you improve service along Finch, but as soon as you start to improve service along Finch or Scarborough, you find that the downtown line needs to be built, relief line, and that's a subway line. So that interdependence creates a need for funds downtown. That'll happen. It's only a matter of time before we see that. So let me finish off, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Deputy Speaker, by saying that this council will have an opportunity to come to the assistance of Councillor Nunziata and myself, because part of the transit system proposed along Eglinton is the introduction of a huge maintenance yard on the former Kodak lands. 50 acres. And when the yard is going to be proposed on that 50 acres, normal planning principles will not apply. We will not be adhering, this council will not adhere to the official plan. Why? Because there's a need for a yard at that location. And I will remind people.
Sorry, Councillor DiGiorgio, I was so swept up in your oratory I lost track of the time. Would you like an extension? A 2-minute extension has been requested. There will be a recorded vote.
Councillor Del Grande, please. Thank you. Councillor DiGiorgio, your own vote, please. Councillor Stintz, please. Councillor Davis.
Councillor Mammoliti, please. Councillor Crisanti, could we have your vote, please?
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Perruzza and Councillor Kelly, please, your votes.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 29 in favor.
Councillor DiGiorgio.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Speaker, when the yard comes forward for the Kodak lands, there won't be the sensitivity that was demonstrated by the TTC at the foot of Leslie. The reason there won't be that sensitivity is because the asset is owned by the province. And so the province is not going to deal with communities the way the TTC deals with communities. I'm hoping that that is otherwise, but I suspect we're going to be dealt with in a very different way. And that, I'll conclude by saying, that opens up a whole new world for the way the transit system works. When we have the province owning assets, that basically puts us in a different ballpark in terms of how the integrated transit system works. How does the asset that is owned by the province, notwithstanding it may be operated by TTC, how do we integrate it into the existing TTC? Those are problems that the TTC commissioners, including yourself, Mr. Deputy Speaker, will have to address and will have to be cognizant of going forward. So based on those comments, Mr. Chairman, as I say, I've expressed my fear. Councillors will have an opportunity to help both Councillor Nunziata and myself when the yard, Councillor Fletcher, comes before us. Councillor Fletcher, you'll have an opportunity to help us, and I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DiGiorgio. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess, Mr. Speaker, I think what I'll probably do is some communicating needs to happen here, so I'll take the lead from my learned colleague from Ward 2, Councillor Ford, and through you, Mr. Speaker, I'll speak directly to Premier McGuinty, as he did when he instructed him only to listen to people who live in North York and Scarborough and Etobicoke, and, well, lo and behold, that's me. I live in North York. So through you, Mr. Speaker, Premier McGuinty, I'm down here at City Hall. I think you know me. I represent constituents at the municipal level in a riding that you hold in North York. I live there with my husband and my daughter. I've had this conversation with you before. My daughter has special needs. She'll be employed. She's going to college this September, but she'll never drive. She'll never drive. She will always need the TTC. Her grandparents live in Scarborough. They live on Shepherd in a senior's home in Scarborough.
One of the very best.
It's a lifelong lease sort of place, and my older sister may live there one day, and I know my daughter's going to want to go and visit her, be on the TTC. I don't know where she's going to work. could be anywhere in the city. I know she'll be employed. I have great hopes. And I know she's going to be successful in college because we're going to help her. She's going to go there every day on the TTC. So one of the things that I have to do for her is the reason I ran. It's the reason I'm here. Because at the municipal level, I know I can help her most. So Premier McGuinty, through the Speaker to you, I got to look at all these motions. And one of them I know you've seen before. We've talked about it so many times. And it's Karen Stintz's motion. She's our TTC chair. She and I don't share the same politics. You know that too. I know you read the paper. I know you do, Premier McGuinty. The Speaker knows it too. But I'm working with her now because I think that she spent a year learning that what we do together, your government, and my government, when we all act like grown-ups, we come up with great plans. And I know that you also know, because you've done this yourself, Mr. Premier, through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. I know that a couple of times in your political tenure, you've had to do a tough thing. You've had to speak the truth to Ontarians. The TTC chair, Councillor Stintz, she's trying to speak the truth to the residents of Toronto right now, and that's why I support her. I made a commitment in Don Valley East and Ward 33 to my residents in 2003 at an all-candidates meeting that I would always speak to them like adults, that I would always tell them the truth, and that if I had information and it was public, that I would share it with them and we would come up with great plans together. So I was honest with them when we were talking about a Shepherd LRT. Through you, Mr. Speaker, to Premier McGuinty, you knew that it would have to be an LRT to be affordable. You helped us with the funding. So did Minister Flaherty from the federal government. But we all knew that LRT was what was affordable. We knew it was what could spread throughout the city if we started that way, and we knew we could demonstrate it. It's different than St. Clair Avenue West. It's formulated in a different way, and it was always meant to be underground where it would need to be. You knew that. Mr. Speaker knew that. I knew that. The chair knew it. Lots of people in this room voted for it. But we did it together. Your funds, the Fed's funds, federal funds are still sitting in the bank. We know you've stayed committed through the whole thing. But I got a whole bunch of other motions here. Don't know what I'm going to do with them at the end of the day. I know you want us to be adults, and you want us to talk to our community like adults. I'm supporting Karen Stintz's motion, even though we have entirely different politics, because she's not about parroting back to her constituents what they want to hear. She's about sharing everything she has with them so that they can come up with great decisions together. And I'm prepared from now until the end of this term of office to do the same with her, to come up with the best plans possible for every Torontonian and every route that my daughter may ever take in her life here in Toronto, that my grandchildren will take in their lives here in Toronto, everywhere they'll work, everywhere they'll live. I want them to be able to do it on the TTC. Rapid transit needs to be here now for my daughter. It'll be underground where it needs to be, and I know we can work together on it if we support Councillor Stintz's motion tonight. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Shiner. Another no-show. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I'll start by saying I've been around the issue of rapid transit on Eglinton for most of my life. I've been at the sites of holes being filled in, jobs being lost, demonstrations for rapid transit along Eglinton, and we're here almost 30 years later still having this discussion. So I think that with no doubt that we all in this chamber agree that we have to move ahead, we have to stop dithering, and we have to come to a decision. I think it's important to note that, I'm really agnostic about the mode we're talking about here, but there are certain situations that call for certain modes of transportation. I should point out that the original Eglinton line that was planned, the subway line, was going to come above ground in the west end of the city. Every subway line we have in the city of Toronto, the Yonge line comes above ground. Bloor Danforth is above ground. The University line is above ground. And I don't think there's a call to bury any of those at this moment. But I think it just proves that while it's tempting to get political about modes and pit subways against streetcars and LRVs against BRTs, what our residents want and need is subway and bus and LRV and LRT and bus, rapid bus to be built now. They wanted it built yesterday. And what they want from us is a clear decision, a decisive decision, and we have that opportunity to make that now in Eglinton. And that's what's before us. While I know and understand there are some differing opinions still on Shepherd, I think the motion that Councillor Stintz has put in front of us gives us the ability to explore some of those alternatives because I think they have to be looked at. But I'll state it again that we've been talking about Eglinton for generations now, for generations. And so the time has come to get over whether you are in love with subways or streetcars or hate one or the other, and to go with the mode that makes sense on the corridor based on good planning, based on ridership numbers, and move forward. So I urge you to support Councillor Stintz's motion, and I urge you to get transit built on Eglinton now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole.
I know. I want to go last.
Councillor Crisanti. Where is he? Not here. Councillor Crisanti.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, my motion is just being completed now. Could I hold down for the next?
Well, the next speaker would appear to be
Councillor Shiner.
on his way to his seat right now.
Give me my pencil. Councillor Parker to speak.
On behalf of Councillor Pasternak, I have a motion that that would amend his motion. The motion is that motion 11A by Councillor Pasternak be referred to the expert advisory panel for consideration. And the expert advisory panel in question is the one contemplated by Councillor Stintz's motion. I can add that editorial comment. It's been a difficult issue. It's been a good debate. We're getting close to the end of the day. Quite honestly, we haven't touched on all of the issues that we might well have touched on, but we've done a pretty good job of canvassing the issues that we have pulled forward for discussion. I would suggest that a full airing has been given to both sides of the question of the merits of how to manage rapid transit on Eglinton, which is the question that is most urgent before us today. That is the one where decisions are being made. Decisions have already been made. Money is being spent, design work is being done, and commitments are being made that are going to affect the ultimate outcome of that project and the disposition of taxpayers' money. That is the one that we really do need to decide here and now. And it was, of course, on that basis that I could not see fit to deferring the questions before us on that aspect of the day's proceedings. The question of Shepherd, I've already made the point that I see a lot of room for debate, and we also have time for debate on Shepherd, and there's time to do more study on Shepherd. So it's quite right that we set that one to one side and we take a closer look at Shepherd. And of course, the particular situation we face there is we already have part of a subway. So we all face the question, what do you do with part of a subway? Well, that's a fair issue to grapple with and to debate. And quite appropriately, we set that one for further review at another time. And who knows where we'll come to land on that question. But that's not the one that is urgent at the moment. That's not the one that we need to settle on immediately. One point about the question of Eglinton, I would suggest has not been canvassed fully, and I'll take an attempt at just touching on some of the aspects of it now. That is, we're not just here trying to determine the best way to move a lot of people from point A to point B. If that were the only question, if it were only a matter of determining how you move a large population from one point on the map to another point on the map without interfering with anybody else between those 2 points, there is a lot of merit to the suggestion that you dig a tunnel and you run a subway train through it, because that's how you do it. And if it costs a little bit extra to do that, maybe it pays off in the long run for the in terms of the collateral benefits that come over the lifetime of the project. But when you're building a subway, you're doing more than, or when you're building a transit system, you're doing more than that, because you're not just building a means of getting a large number of people from one point to another point. You're building a system, and you're not just building a transit system, you're building a city. So you have to ask yourself, what is the best way to build a city? I see I'm already at 4 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. I think we should keep in mind that the kind of city you build with surface transit is a city that has more general development across the board along the corridor of the transit corridors. When you build a subway system with stations at distant points from one another, you tend to get high density development at the nodes and somewhat less development between the nodes. I certainly see that as less desirable development. So to my mind, and I would urge this on the others, it's not a question of choosing an LRT as the second best alternative. I would suggest that an LRT is the better alternative of the options available to us. And you know what? I will take an extension just to make a further point.
Recorded vote. Recorded vote on the extension.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Kelly, please. And Councillor Perks.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Minnan-Wong, your vote, please. Councillor Parker, may we have your vote, please?
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 31 in favor.
Thank you. I think everyone has dealt with this question with honor and this debate with honor, none more so than our mayor, who spoke passionately during the election campaign about his vision for the city. He put it out there for everyone to take a look at. The people voted. He the voters spoke, and he won that election. He sits in the office of mayor, and he feels honor bound to deliver on the commitments that he made in the election campaign. I respect that. He has stood up for that, and he has not wavered from that. He has been very decent with me in my opposition to that position, and has been very sensitive and understanding that I come down on a different position on it. There is the argument is made that people want subways, not LRTs. The fact of the matter is, subways are not on offer for Eglinton. What is available to us is not a subway line, even if that is what we wanted. And I would suggest that is not the recommendation I would make. But even if we were to prefer a subway line to an LRT, that choice is not available to us. The choice that is available to us is to buy LRT vehicles at a cost premium and to decide whether we put them on the surface or through the tunnel. We do not have the option of building a conventional subway line. given all of the alternatives, given the cost to the taxpayers, and given the best results for building the kind of city that I think we should want to build, I'm with the choice to put the Eglinton LRT on the surface east of the Don Valley.
Councillor Crisanti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a motion, an amendment to Councillor Mamali's motion, and it will now read that City Council requests Metrolinx to use the funds previously allocated for the Finch West LRT and redirect them to the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, the Shepherd Subway, and for an upgraded bus route along Finch Avenue, and that the City Manager, in consultation with the Chief General Manager, Toronto Transit Commission, be directed to report to City Council on the feasibility of immediate implementation of enhanced bus service on Finch Avenue utilizing Q bypass lanes as reported on the May 11, 2011 meeting of the Toronto Transit Commission. Madam Chair, on May 2011, I asked for a report, and I understand that that report to this date is still not ready. The fact is that Finch Avenue needs help and needs it now. The fact is that voters rejected, as I indicated earlier this morning, voters rejected Transit City at the ballot in the last election. My position on streetcars, my position on the LRT has always been very clear. My community, my constituents, do not want an LRT on Finch Avenue. The previous administration tried to stretch the public transit dollar over many kilometers. They called it value, when in reality, it is poor long-term planning. St. Clair went over time, over budget, created chaos, and hurt businesses. Some people will like nothing better than to pretend that the last election never happened and that the suburbs want an LRT or streetcars, a better term that everyone understands. I got many emails from Torontonians, and the ones from the suburbs want transit underground. And the ones that I get from downtown usually write something like, well, give the suburbs above ground transit. And that's easy for them to say, Madam Speaker, because they already have underground transit. Residents of the suburbs, Etobicoke residents, recognize that underground transit is more expensive. They recognize that it's an investment. They recognize that underground transit is for the future. It's not just about us. It moves people, it moves more people, it moves them faster, and it gets people out of their cars. And they're prepared to make that investment. Councillor de Beermaker and Councillor Stintz Transit City Plan provides a solution for everybody right away. But that's not exactly the case. The plan gives North Etobicoke nothing for at least 8 to 10 years. So North Etobicoke, my constituents, Councillor Ford's constituents, Councillor Mamalidi's constituents, are waiting 10 years, or maybe longer, before anything really happens. In the suburbs, there is a desire for growth and room for intensification. And the suburbs are not looking to settle for second best. Some people say that I'm not sticking up for my constituents because I support underground transit on Eglinton. On the contrary, I support underground transit because I believe it's the better way for the long run. Why should we be shortchanged? It's not just about us. It's about our children. It's about our grandchildren. It's about the future of the city. And by voting for Councillor Stintz's motion, we are saying to my community that we'll spend $1 million, may be completed by 2020. In the meantime, we're going to destroy Finch Avenue. It's not going to move anybody faster, and it's not going to do the job for today. And this is why nearly a year ago I asked the TTC to prepare a report on alternatives for Finch. But they came back with a number of preliminary options, and they suggested that Q bypass lanes would travel at 23 kilometers per hour compared to 22 kilometers for an LRT, and that it will cost $45 million compared to $1 billion.
Councillor Crisanti, do you need an extension?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Okay, recorded vote.
You're voting for yourself?
Sure.
For an extension. Do you support your own extension?
Councillor Robinson, please, and Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Cho, please.
The motion to extend the Speaker's time carries unanimously, 34 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just want to reiterate that the option of bypass lanes, articulated buses, is very clear in a report that we got in June, I believe, of 2011, that buses can travel at 23 kilometers an hour with those adjustments made to Finch Avenue versus the LRT at 22 kilometers an hour. It will cost a fraction of the cost, somewhere in the $45 million range, versus $1 billion for an LRT, which is not going to happen immediately, but will happen somewhere down the road. And it would take a year or two to implement this interim fix for Finch Avenue. So if you care about the long-term future of transit, you will not support the half measures proposed in front of you today. You will listen to your constituents, not just the loudest ones or the ones who email your offices on form letters. You will consider your children, and you'll consider your grandchildren, and you will support smart investments, and you will vote to put transit underground. So I urge you to not be short-sighted. Think beyond yourself. Think for the future of this city, and consider your vote very carefully, and let's do this properly once and for all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Shiner.
Questions of the movement?
Councillor Shiner?
We have questions?
Just a sec. Yes, just one sec. Oh, okay.
You want to speak?
Yes, we have a question, though, to Councillor Crisanti from Councillor Peruzza.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, Councillor. I'm just trying to understand your motion and what your motion does. So your motion would take a $900 million investment off of Finch and put it on Eglinton Avenue. That's what your motion does?
My motion is an amendment to Councillor Mamalidi's motion.
No, but I'm trying to understand this here. It says...
If you're looking at my motion is asking that the city manager, in consultation with the chief general manager, be directed to report to City Council on the feasibility of immediate implementation of enhanced bus service.
Yeah, no,
that's my motion.
Yeah, okay, I understand. So essentially, it's an endorsation of Councillor Mamalides to remove a $900 million investment off of Finch Avenue, put it on Eglinton, bury it under Eglinton, right, and just add a few more buses on the Finch, and that would be cool with you if we're for a community that you represent. You'd be good with that.
I like how creative you are with your questions.
Pardon?
Here's what I'm good for. I'm good for providing a fix for Finch Avenue that begins today and not possibly 8 or 10 years down the road. And I'm also good for a vision for the City of Toronto and our children and our grandchildren that's going to provide a real rapid transit system.
So, to just basically backtrack a little, you voted at the commission to reduce buses on Finch Avenue, to reduce the 36 bus route.
Okay.
Can you?
Okay, that's it. Okay, Councillor Perruzza, Councillor Vaughn to speak. No, you only have questions as far as clarification, and that's not where you were going, Councillor Perruzza. No, you were not. Councillor Vaughn to speak. Last speaker.
I think what we have today in front of us, finally, is a council plan. I think we've had proposals in the past from mayors and from chairs of the TTC, and we've had proposals from transit experts and sometimes even the province. But what we finally have is a council that is about to make a decision and produce a plan for transit in this city that comes from all 44 wards. There are disagreements in some of the orders, in some of the priorities. But at the end of the day, this is the plan that we have created through a day worth of debate, a year worth of conversations, and 20, 30 years of planning. We are now at a critical point where this council is going to create a plan for the future for this city. And it's always a risky thing to do, to put about $8 billion on the floor of council and watch 44 councillors and a mayor try and figure out how to get it into their ward or get it to the ward next door or get it into the ward for the council's vote they need for the next issue coming down the line. And we're seeing some of the motions that have sprung up once it was clear what the decision was going to be, where a line gets added here and a bus route over here, and all of a sudden everyone wants to spend that $8 billion. And that's effectively what's been paralyzing the city over the last 25 years, is that every time substantial dollars come to the table, there is a lot of politics that gets played and decisions get made. And I can remember, because my father was on Metro Council back in the early 70s, and the debate was what to do about another line that the Davis government was going to fund for Toronto. And the consensus walking into the meeting was that the line should go along the waterfront to the C&E, up Dufferin to Yorkdale Shopping Centre, and then connect the university, York University with the downtown core. And that line, which had the density to finance itself from the day it opened, and the potential to create new intensification and new projects along the route. That line quickly fell to a compromise position because there weren't enough votes by the time it got to the floor of Metro Council. And the decision then was to try and route it up Bathurst Street. And the Bathurst Street line looked like it was going to pass with a one-vote majority. And over the dinner break, Spadina was chosen instead. And it was chosen not because it was good transit, but because it protected the route of the Spadina Expressway. And that's the line that's now being built all the way up to the city of Vaughan. And that line, almost a generation later, has done the one thing it was promised it would do, it has not done, and that's build density. And from that moment that that decision was made in this city, we've been trying to create density with transit lines. And it hasn't worked. Cities around the world don't throw transit lines into vacant fields and hope for the density. What they do is what we used to do prior to the Spadina line, is they look at the transit lines that would be served by higher orders of transit, and they intensify the transit use where they can intensify it, and by doing that, extend resources into places that don't quite have the capacity yet for rail or for a bus, but will in the future. And they build the transit lines, the transit capacity, and they stimulate the intensification. And when the time is right and the ridership is right, that's when you invest in higher orders of transit. And for a generation, we haven't been doing that in this city. And as a result, the TTC has been running with a massive operating debt, which has been made much worse by the provincial government getting out of the subsidy game in operating public transit. What we're asked to do today is to move on the Shepherd subway line if we were to accept the proposal that was put on the table about 13 months ago. And that's not going to happen, and we're moving in a different direction. That's the right way to go. And I'll be supporting Councillor Stintz's motion. But if we had chosen that line, it would have brought us to an even more radically bizarre position where not only were we throwing a transit line into areas that didn't have the density to support it, we're going to hope that that density could be borrowed against for 50 years to finance it, even though it still had $1 billion shortfall. And that kind of planning is even more risky than the Spadina line. And as I said, the Spadina line was the wrong decision. It should have gone up Dufferin. It would have served parts of the city with a downtown relief line, effectively, in a way that no other system did. Instead, we have the Spadina line, which struggles to this day. And all of this transit planning we're doing right now is trying to feed that Spadina line to make it more profitable. And hopefully, what's on the table now with Finch and Eglinton and Shepherd will eventually get us there.
Councillor, extension?
Yes, please.
Recorded vote.
One can't help himself. My mic's on, thanks. My mic's on, thank you. Okay. You owe me one. Just vote.
Councillor Grimes, Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Mihevc. Councillor Crisanti, please.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Perks, please. Councillor Cho and Councillor Wong Tam. And Councillor Perruzza, please.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries 33-1.
So the decision in front of us today is not a decision that this council is making based on whether you live north or south of Eglinton or east or west of Yonge. You've heard it in speech after speech. It's not about that. It's about how do we get transit to Downsview, to Thistletown, to Malvern. How do we get it not to different old municipalities, but to the neighborhoods that make up this great city? That's the issue that's in front of us. That's the opportunity that we now have. And that's the work that lies in front of us. And we have some great, exciting new tools for revenue that we can explore. But it's about getting that and that set of services built. And when you take a look at some of the conversations around here, the conversation that sticks in my mind as we make this decision is a very simple one. There used to be a young man that worked in City Hall here who lived in Malvern, lived in one of the priority neighborhoods in Malvern, and he went to York University. Put your mind through that commute. And then add to that the fact that he financed that education by working downtown. He would spend 4.5 hours a day in transit, getting from home to school to work to home again. That's the 4 hours that we have to worry about. Not the 2 minutes or 20 minutes on any particular line. It's making that young man's life possible. Because that, more than any other transit line that we're discussing today, is the future of this city. And when we solve that young man's problem, we'll have done ourselves proud as a city council.
Okay, last speaker, Councillor Robinson.
I'll be brief, I promise. I'm an avid transit user. I ride the subway every day, at least twice, some days 3 times. And I actually don't even know where my parking spot is in City Hall. So I'm proud to say that. The number one complaint I get from residents is congestion and gridlock. I hear about it every day in my ward and our neighbourhoods that are being affected by people rerouting off the arteries into our neighbourhoods, the volume, the speed at which they drive. The second biggest complaint I get is about the TTC. People waiting for 2 or 3 trains on a daily basis. People getting on the trains and being delayed and not getting to work on time or to their appointments. And that's something we haven't talked about today. We're talking about expansion. But I hope we continue to focus on how we can continue to serve our residents better and to get them to places on time. We need to address this issue. I think there's nothing wrong with renewed discussion about Toronto's transit plan. However, we need to get moving. We need to move things forward, and we need to do it now. I would have really appreciated another month to get some independent expert advice and to have a really good chance to discuss this and debate this with my residents, to have public meetings, to gather more really meaningful public input. I also, over the last few days, because this really officially just started on Monday and today is Wednesday, I've heard a lot of misinformation and a lot of different mixed facts on this issue, and so it's been very challenging. I'm a proponent of faster service and exclusive right-of-ways, which it's appealing to everyone, as we've all said today. Everybody wants subways. World-class cities build subways. However, there's an envelope, and we have to work within it, and that's our reality. We need to build as much subway and transit and streetcars and LRTs as we can to accommodate our residents and serve them as best we can. The other thing that bothers me is the sunk costs, and I won't expand on that, but that's something I remember when I was door knocking, complaining about Mike Harris and the 80 million that was wasted there. So that's something that kind of sits with me. But like Councillor Milchin, I actually think when the engineers start really analyzing this, and the general manager indicated that they haven't fully assessed Eglinton, I do think that they will find that a lot of Eglinton will end up underground. I'm very proud to say my son's studying engineering his first year, and I'm learning a little bit about that, but I'm very familiar with that stretch, particularly near Councillor Parker and my ward, that stretch of Eglinton. I do think it really, after they determine how they move forward, a lot of it, maybe all the way to the DVP, will end up underground, and I'm hopeful for that. So I guess my vote today, when I cast my vote, it will be based on the input that I have received from my residents to date over this very short period of time. And I'm basically going to do the mathematical assessment of what came in, yay, and what came in nay, and that's how I will cast my vote today, based on resident input that I've received to date.
Thank you. Councillor Aljamari.
Thank you. Speaker, I'm here today to stand up for what the majority of TTC riders want. They want rapid transit. They want it now. Today is a plea from many of us to get shovels in the ground with a plan that's already in place versus a notion about underground transit that is unplanned, uncertain, unfunded, and certainly underserviced. The Metrolinx light rail plan offers that and will deliver that. The underground alternative and talk about a Finch subway offers riders nothing more than wishful thinking. Finch will never qualify, in my lifetime or yours, for a subterranean plan. It's not feasible, it's not financially sane in anybody's world. And to tell constituents that it's coming is a lie. The subway extension running through my ward, Speaker, was approved in the 1980s, yet construction didn't start until a few short years ago. Financing is the key. I was at the table with, I think it was Doug Holliday when we were at Metro, and we had left for the night thinking that our plan would be there in the morning. Well, it wasn't. Eglinton and the York University line disappeared during the night because of the mayor of the day, and those are the lines that made sense. So directly because of politics, the lifelines of the city were changed overnight, in 6 hours, I'd say. So now we have to go in and remediate the mistake that the Shepherd subway was. We've heard about Finch riders having one of the most crowded transit experiences in the city. So I went out there so I could bring this experience back to you, so you can see that the claims about Finch are real. Don't rob these riders of a fully funded LRT. An LRT is not only about rapid transit. It's not only about building transportation, it's about building business. It's about economic redevelopment. It's about animation on the street. It builds business. That's what an LRT does. Look at all the cities around the world. By the way, the subway in Torino froze today. Thank God they had LRTs to move people around. Today we have a chance to bring Finch and the surrounding communities the light rail transit service they need, deserve, and most importantly, what we can pay for. I believe that the riders get it, despite some misleading information out there and false choices out there. The reality is we have $8.4 billion in transit expansion money at our disposal. What's the best way to spend this money? On a transit constituency that is growing in record numbers. People want to take the TTC. People want to get on our public transit system. Do we spend it on a few subway stops in one corner of Toronto and unnecessarily undergrounding a light rail line? Or do we go back to the original approved 2009 light rail plan that spreads that transit money citywide that at least 10 people who are sitting here who vote against it today voted for? It's in black and white. Madam Speaker, I'd like to have an extension voted on now because I'm going to be showing a video. Because I don't want the video interrupted. Close your eyes.
Recorded vote.
I'm embarrassed, so I'm leaving the room.
I'm scared.
I think it's okay for us.
Yes, exactly.
Councillor DeGiorgio, please. Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Parker, please.
X-rated.
Councillor Robinson, please, and Councillor Vaughn. Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Berardinetti.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries unanimously, 34
Thank you very
in
much,
favor.
Speaker. Thank you.
No, I think I like that.
I like it already.
No, I'm sorry. We did the same thing to Councillor Palacio. He didn't have video, audio. We already did. We already did.
This is the best speech you ever made.
Yes. No, let's just not show it. Let's just not show it. Oh, God.
Finch Avenue West to see what life is like taking a bus in the morning for people in Toronto who are commuters. We're up to see how crowded it is, just how difficult it is for people, how uncomfortable. Let's see what we find. What we just saw was a fully packed bus go by. It didn't even stop. There was no reason to stop. It couldn't load any more passengers on. This is typical of what Finch commuters go through every day. What's it like taking the bus here at Finch?
Finch is really packed actually. Like every morning, probably it's around 10. I noticed that on Wednesdays it's not that packed because there's always late starts. So that tells me that usually it's the students that crowd it. And not only that, it takes a while to come. This is frequent service, but it takes a long time for it to come. Usually I wait 15 minutes.
Do you usually get on the first bus?
No.
No? You have to wait?
Yeah.
How many
Sometimes I walk most of the time.
You walk?
Yeah.
Because?
Because it's just too crowded here on Weston. Like I take the bus from Weston to Wilson Station.
Yes.
And when I get to Weston, it's not that crowded.
Let's see how it is now. Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you want to get on first? So is it usually this crowded? I noticed some buses not stopping at all. Yeah. I'm told it's typical to run it this crowded. Every morning it gets a little bit better after 10 a.m., but sometimes the buses don't stop at all and they just whiz by the commuters who are waiting at the bus stops.
Can you ask them to
Definitely need better transit here
tell
on
them to
Finch.
take it off now? The time's up. Julie,
Well, we just
turn it
got
down.
off the Finch bus.
Please tell them to turn
It
it
was
off.
quite an experience. It was packed. It didn't have to be this way.
Okay, that's. Thank you, Councillor Berardinetti. I think that's the whole city, not just Finch. Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, through you. It was very good video.
Okay.
It's great to see other parts of Toronto as well. So I just wanted to speak today about the density that I'm going to just speak more about the development that's happening in my ward and the density that's coming in along Eglinton. I've often heard it said, and I've seen other videos of journalists and other architects and planners that have come out and they've looked at Scarborough the way that it is. And the 1970s suburban planning, the strip malls along Eglinton, but that's changing, and it's actually not even taking transit coming in along Eglinton to see that change. The type of changes that I'm seeing are massive developments, the proposals that are coming across my desk. And this is similar to what you would see downtown, Yonge and Eglinton. And it is also 5 stories. It's to the avenue. It's modern urban planning. It's definitely what we want to see. This is walkable. It's definitely something that we do want to see in our area. But it will take transit and good transit to make sure that it accommodates for that type of planning. And that's what I'd like to see is a coordinated effort. So looking at the gate, I'm at the gateway of Scarborough. This is Eglinton and Victoria Park. And this is really the gateway. It's what we perceive as the gateway to Scarborough when you're entering in from the downtown core and you're coming into Scarborough. And we really want this to play a place to be. It is a place that's growing. We have the most growth in Toronto, and we want to make sure that it's coordinated with transit, and that's the type of development that is shown. It's coming in, it's the density that we're seeing, and it's without seeing any type of LRT or underground or at grade. We're seeing it already. So I just wanted to make a note of a letter by a former clerk, and of course the clerks are not really allowed to give their opinion. They're supposed to be apolitical. And this is from Novena Wong. And she's very well respected. She's a resident of Scarborough. And she wrote in about as a regular resident of Scarborough. And I found her letter to really speak to what I'm hearing from my residents. So as much as poll and as much community consultation that I could do, I obviously found that the majority of my residents are in favor of the underground. It's long-term planning. It's long-term vision. It's not for 1970s planning. That's not what we're doing. If we're providing transit for 1970s planning, that's inappropriate. We have to plan for the future. So what I found with her letter, and I'd just like to read as much of it as I can. So this says, the mayor's right. Toronto needs subways. Scarborough needs subways. Residents of Scarborough understand Mayor Ford's simple but clear vision of rapid transit. The subway is fast. It cuts down on our traveling time and improves our productivity. It attracts development. It creates jobs. You don't see Scarborough residents wearing buttons to show their support for the subway. We rarely organize ourselves into protests, nor do we come out in troops to make our demands heard at City Hall. We are not lobbyists. Many of us are good old citizens busy making a living, raising a family, making ends meet. Or we are out looking for jobs. We do not have the time to make our way to City Hall. But we spoke out loud and clear in the last civic election. We want Scarborough on the subway map. We want the extension of the Shepherd subway to Scarborough. Why is it that we keep missing the fast train? We were told we don't have the numbers to justify one, or the city can't afford one. And yet we have some of the poorest communities in town. Investing in a subway is investing in our communities, in our children. Unless you make us more attractive, no companies will want to build in our neighborhood. Young families will not choose to live in Scarborough because they can't find jobs here, and it takes forever to go A to B on public transit. Our City Council has been building to meet current demands, and rightly so. But where is the future? Do we continue to pour our resources into areas of the city that already attract developments, or do we spread the wealth and improve the living conditions elsewhere to make them just as attractive? Imagine restaurants that no longer have to struggle or close in Scarborough because we don't have enough customers. Instead of boxes of public storage facilities built along Shepherd and Highway 401, we can perhaps start to see the real corporate buildings and investments in our own backyard. Imagine thousands of students from all over the city can finally take the fast train to University of Toronto Scarborough campus or Centennial College.
Do you need an extension?
I do. Thank you.
Okay, recorded vote.
Clerk. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Metro Clerk.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Ainsley, please.
Councillor Davis, please.
Councillor Robinson, please.
The motion to extend the speaker's time carries unanimously, 35 in favor.
Thank you. And okay, and if sorry, I didn't make it clear. Novena Wong is a former city clerk of City Hall, so I thought I said that, just want to make that clear. Metro Hall, sorry. And so imagine thousands of students from all over the city can finally take the fast train to the University of Toronto Scarborough campus or Centennial College. And what if the Toronto Zoo is the only one subway ride away? Build it, they will come. For many of us, Scarborough has been a home for decades, and we love our community. But we couldn't say our children feel the same. We're far away from where the action is and from where the jobs are. Yet there is no reason why we can't build ourselves into a livable and self-sustained community. Building a subway is the first bold step to take us there. A battle is brewing at City Hall over the Mayor's vision of rapid transit. The last thing we want to see is a power struggle. Let's not lose track of the needs of ordinary citizens like us who are hopeful of a fast train coming our way. Building subways was high on Mayor Ford's election platform. We voted to support him. Councillors owe it to the people of Toronto to at least have an open mind and see what the Mayor has put forward. How can we make it happen, and by what means? This is a debate that makes sense at City Hall. To do otherwise or to simply dismiss subways is smack in the face of democracy. Our forefathers took the enormous step to build young subway in 1950s, and from generation to generation, we have benefited tremendously from it. Councillors now have a rare opportunity to extend our subways across Toronto. Just do it.
Thank you.
So I just want to wrap up by saying I think it's long-term vision that we have to consider, and I would have wished that it could have gone to an independent panel. I think that would have depoliticized it. However, we're here today to vote, and I'll be voting accordingly.
Thank you. Okay, so if we can ring the bells to vote. Okay, the order of vote is on the screen. Okay, can you turn the bells on? Okay, has everyone got their motions in order? Okay, we're going to show them on the screen. The first motion. Okay, let's put the first motion on the screen. Motion number 7 by Councillor Kelly. I'm sorry, Councillor Kelly, what was your request? No, but your motion, this is motion number 7. So you want each part voted on separately? Is that what you're saying? No, because it's all one. Councillor Perks, I don't need you chirping in the background. No, Councillor Kelly, you have to be one. Okay. So,
Kelly, please.
motion number 7, recorded vote.
Councillor Perks, please. Thank you.
Councillor Robinson, please.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Davis, please.
The motion does not carry. The vote is 18 to 25.
So, just on the, there's a few amendments. For
the amendments are 3B, not 3A.
Oh, okay. Okay, so our next motion is number 3A.
Councillor Grimes, please.
Councillor Kelly, please.
Councillor Crisanti and Councillor Palacio, please. Mayor Ford and Councillor Mamalidi, please.
Motion 3A carries 26 to 17.
Motion number 5.
Councillor Grimes, please, and Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Kelly, please. And Councillor Perruzza.
Councillor Crisanti, please. Mayor Ford, please. Councillor Fletcher, please.
The amendment carries 29 to 14.
Motion number 9, recorded vote.
My actual
Sorry, Councillor Kelly, did you have a point of order?
Generally, it's a courtesy when a colleague has misvoted. My brain told my finger to vote no, but it insisted on voting yes.
Stick with that.
So could we, would you please, I would invite my colleagues to be as generous to me as they have been to others, to reopen that so I can vote, I can record my vote accurately.
Councillor Kelly, you're referring to the last
3A,
vote?
3A.
3A.
Yes.
Okay, motion to reopen 3A, recorded vote.
Trust your instincts, Norm. That was a very good instinct.
Go with your finger, Norm.
Pleasantly surprised many people were.
Councillor Vaughan and Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Ainsley.
Yeah. Let him vote again. We'd let you, Joe. Really, we would. Yeah, from now on we call them Kellys.
The motion to reconsider carries 43-0.
Okay, so on the motion, recorded vote.
Everyone cheer for Norm's finger.
Councillor Bailao, please.
The motion carries 27-16.
Our next motion.
Let's do it again.
Seems
It seems that I inadvertently
Is that you?
Let go, let go. What's next?
No, I'm just going to wait for everyone to quiet down. Okay, our next motion is motion number 9, recorded vote.
Councillor Carroll, please. Councillor Bailao, Councillor Minnan-Wong. Councillor Perruzza, please.
Councillor Palacio and Councillor Crisanti, please.
The amendment carries 32-11.
Our next motion is motion number 10. Recorded vote.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
Councillor Minnan-Wong, please. Councillor Davis. Councillor Davis, please.
The amendment carries 38 to 5.
Okay, our next motion is motion 11B.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Palacio and Crisanti, please. Councillor Mammoliti, please.
Councillor Shiner, please, and Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Shiner?
The amendment carries 32 to 11.
Our next motion is 3B, as amended, recorded vote.
Councillor de Beremaker, please. Councillor Palacio. Councillor Crisanti, please.
The motion as amended carries 28 to 15.
Our next motion is motion number 4, recorded vote.
Councillor Palacio, please, and Councillor Crisanti.
The motion carries 39 to 4.
Our next motion, our next motion is motion number 12, recorded vote.
Okay, this is where we have a problem because at least the first part of motion number 6 is now redundant with the passage of Stintz's motion. So the amendments, both 12 and 14, are all to that first part. So they're all redundant.
Even mine?
Sit down, sit. Before you piss her off, make her. Give her a chance. Give her a chance.
Councillor Mihevik, you stood up. Why? Do you have a problem?
For a ruling on whether this is redundant or not.
Well, that's exactly what we were reviewing.
That's why I love you so much.
That's why.
Order.
Pardon?
It complies with the official plan.
I want.
Okay. So what's happened here then, so members know, by voting for that other motion for Councillor Stintz, that the motion 12, motion 14, and motion 6 is redundant. So those communities are redundant according to the council. Yeah. So just to let you know what you voted on. Motion number 8. Motion number 8. So the city of York and all those communities are redundant. Motion number 8. Motion number 8 by Councillor Perruzza, recorded vote. Recorded vote.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Bailao. Councillor Parker, please. Thank you. Councillor Min Wong.
Councillor Crisanti, please. Councillor Crisanti, could we have your vote, please? Councillor Crisanti, please.
The motion carries 29 to 14.
Motion number 13, recorded vote.
I think John Parker's going to win today.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Fletcher, Crisanti, and Palazzo, please.
Well, you know what, you really guys gave us bad advice. I'm sorry. You gave us really bad advice.
Councillor Crisanti and Councillor Palazzo, please. Could we have your vote? Councillor Palazzo, could we have your vote, please?
The motion carries 33 to 10.
To reopen 3A, recorded vote.
Why? What's the reason? I need to know the reason.
Because just like other members of council, they press the buttons that they shouldn't be pressing and they make mistakes. Recorded vote to reopen. Okay. Councillor Thompson and Councillor Min Wong. Okay, recorded vote. Yes, to reopen.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Fletcher, please. And Councillor Crisanti, please. Mayor Ford, please.
Yes, it is. I think that if everybody kind of tried to keep it down, maybe everybody would hear what we're voting on and understand what we're voting on. Okay.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Berardinetti, Councillor Davis.
This vote is to reopen.
Motion to reopen carries unanimously, 43 in favor.
Okay, so on the motion, recorded vote.
Councillor McMahon, please, and Councillor Perruzza.
Councillor McConnell, please.
The motion carries 25 to 18.
Councillor DeGrande.
Item number 2 for motion 11A, which is going to be voted on, I would ask that that be voted separately, and the reason?
That was referred.
It's been referred? Okay.
Yeah.
We're done. Just have the bill.
Okay. Councillor Perks, can you please stop?
But I'm having so much fun.
Well, please, if you... Councillor Bylock, you have a motion regarding absentees.
Yes, I do. That City Council excuse the absence of Councillor Gloria Lindsay Luby and Councillor Ron Moser from the February 8th, 2012 Special Council meeting.
Madam Chair, on a point.
All those in favor?
Madam Chair, on a point of order, and I want this split.
What split?
I want this split because there was a petition sent around, and there were members of council who signed that petition who aren't here, and on principle, I want to vote on this. I want it split.
Okay, so we're voting on Councillor Luby first.
If you sign a petition, you show up.
Councillor Lindsay Luby.
No.
Councillor Kelly, please. Councillor Carroll. Councillor Thompson, please. Councillor Matlow. Councillor Pasternak and Councillor Doucette, please.
Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor Crisanti, please.
Councillor Doucette, please.
This is no, right? This is no.
The motion to excuse the absence of Councillor Lindsay Luby carries 30 to 13.
Okay, on Councillor Moser, recorded vote.
I actually voted the wrong way there.
Well, the poor guy is sick, not ducking the vote.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
I love it. Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson?
Aye, Madam Speaker. Had a bit of,
We're in the middle of a vote. We're in the middle of a vote. Councillor
So, Madam Speaker, I voted the wrong way on that particular vote. I didn't mean to vote that way. So can I redo that? Paula, I can catch up to you. It doesn't matter.
We have to.
Councillor Vaughan, please. Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Ainsley, please.
We have to finish this vote because we're in the middle of a vote right now.
Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Matlow. Councillor Wong
Councillor
Tam,
Thompson
please.
wants to reopen the. Yes, we are.
Motion to excuse the absence of Councillor Moser carries unanimously 43 in favor.
Councillor Thompson has asked that the recorded vote on the absentee of Councillor Lindsay Luby be reopened. That's the motion. Recorded vote to reopen. Now, how did Councillor Thompson?
Councillor Del Grande, please. Councillor Wong Tam, Councillor McMahon.
This is to reopen.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
Yes. Councillor Lee is now asked for it to be reopened.
The motion to reopen carries 41 to 2.
Okay, so we'll go back and we'll vote on it. Recorded vote. Rob, he voted.
Councillor Stintz, please. Councillor Parker. Councillor Wong Tam.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Crisanti and Councillor Palacio, please.
The motion to excuse the absence of Councillor Lindsay Luby carries 34 to 9.
Councillor Stintz, can you please take your seat? We're in the middle of a vote. Councillor Stintz, please take your seat. Thank you. Councillor Aljamari, you have a motion to introduce the confirming bill.
I'm so pleased that leave to introduce the bill, that leave be granted to introduce a bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion the proceedings of the council meeting on February 8th, 2012. Thank you.
Recorded vote.
Councillor Pasternak and Councillor Shiner, please.
Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Crisanti, please.
The introduction of the confirming bill carries 30 to 13.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? Recorded vote.
Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Wong Tam.
Councillor Crisanti, please.
The motion to enact the confirming bill carries 32 to 11.
Okay. We're adjourned.